Hello, it's Tuesday night, and welcome to the DM's Book Club, weekly podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons and see how we can fit into our role-playing campaigns. Here I am, as ever, with our erstwhile leader, Fiona. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is going out on a Wednesday, but yes, Tuesday night's when we record.
I was just doing the SNL thing. That was it.
It's great. Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved the energy. You're very Lou Wilson, like sort of Saturday night. Here we go.
It's Saturday night. We're in New York City.
New York City. I'm doing well. How are you doing, Hamilton? All good?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you. Yeah. Ready to talk about some Dungeons & Dragons, see how we can fit it into our role-playing campaigns.
Really hammer home the message of what this podcast is until we change it when we do other RPGs coming up. So I like it.
We had one for that, didn't we? We actually did have one pre-written, because we did pre-record one.
Somewhere. Yeah, I can find the notes for it afterwards. It's definitely somewhere in the notion of far ago. But
somewhere in the notion.
But any D&D news? I know we're recording this in the past. I assume the Kickstarter's done brilliantly.
I hope so.
Yeah. You've fully because it's Zine month now as we're recording. This is going to be out after Zine month, but there's been so many cool Zines.
I've stupidly spent too much money, and the problem is you spend it before you've got it, and that's the problem. It's like, I'll take that one. I've got, what did I buy? I can find out what I bought, because I think it'd be good to shout out some good some cool
we can always
people.
if you got some there, I can put them in the show notes, and then we could be like, hey, check them out, because again, we're all about uplifting TTRPGs. Be loud,
so let's promote let's do some uplifting. Forbidden Psalms is done by a guy named Will Rahman, who is going to be helping me out on my campaign as well, doing a little extra stretch goal. But I wanted to get it anyway because he made 28 Psalms, which is like a miniatures agnostic game, very heavily inspired by both Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k. And you can use Mortborg rules with a miniatures game chucked on top in a sort of grim, dark future or fantasy realm. But it also came with Horse War, which I told you about before, which is where you have horses that fight each other in an endless battle as humans have died. And if you have a miniature of a horse and it has a wizard's hat on it, it's a wizard. If the wizard hat falls off at any time, it is no longer a wizard. Basic.
Love rules like that.
Yeah. I also bought Strange Bjorn, I imagine it's pronounced, Haunted Hillfort Dell for Morkborg, because it looked really cool. And I bought Heavy Weighs the Crown, a solo RPG zine by Jason Price and Jack Harrison, which looks very cool. It's got very Crom-like art, might even be Crom who did the art. And it's about, you play from the perspective of a magical crown, the ultimate symbol of royal office. From this position of influence, you'll watch monarchs come and go, helping decide the fate of the realm you rule over together.
Nice.
So sounds like a fun little. I had one of their other ones, which is Artifact. If you've ever heard of that,
I know it as that. There's a game called Artifact that's by Mousehole Press. So I think that's a different one to the one you're talking about. That one was about like a weapon, like a magical item, an artifact that moved. Is that? Oh,
that's
okay.
It. Yeah, Game of Legendary Items, Transient Heroes. Yeah,
yes,
so that's
perfect.
Mousehole Press, which is the same guy,
Jack Harrison.
Jack Harrison, exactly. So that's one of the people on this. It's Jason Price and Jack Harrison together on this one.
Yeah, I can highly recommend Artifact. Maybe we'll do it as like a one-off bonus episode, because I've played it a few times. I don't know if you've ever played it, but it's a pretty
I've got it, never played it. That's the thing. I bought it because it's very cool. It's really
I love
cool.
the idea of it. Like, again, the idea of like world building, but it's actually items that get passed down. You give them a history, and then they appear in your game like, oh, this is sick, but the players don't. Well, the characters don't know. The players know, but the characters don't know.
Exactly. And I think this seems like it's a just crown focused royal realm building sort of zine, which sounds it sounds great. And it's like, play it together with your D&D group to create the history of a ruined realm. Your GM could turn this into your next adventure, a dread plunge into a decaying civilization, or a hunt for a legendary crown. I love it. I actually got ages ago, I backed something which is a good companion piece to this. So I recommend, I'm only going to mention it because of that.
Yeah.
Which was Helms of the Multiverse, which was by a chap called Daniel Locke. Beautiful artwork. It was literally he'd done a booklet, a little zine of just famous helms, right? Beautifully drawn, really cool. Yeah, and it's a system agnostic guide to the most remarkable magical and non-magical helmets and protective headgear from across the many worlds and realms of the multiverse. So I recommend if you
Heck
want to
yeah.
pick up a pairing, that was out ages ago, but you can still find it. Helms of the Multiverse, and then stick that with your Heavy Wears the Crown. You've got yourself a fun evening.
Feel like in future, like when we do GM's book club, is that we're gonna have to like do a roundup of other things that we've seen at the top and the bottom of the things that is just shout out, and then go into the actual game because those sound amazing. Because yeah, the only ones I will talk about, and admittedly this is like hashtag sponsored, hashtag ad, etc. Is Prequel is the other one that's come out for ZineQuest recently, which is a tactical boss fight game with world building to it as well. And the reason I say affiliate is that I will be running a stream of it in February. Obviously, it's happened. It was great. Whereby the three people, including myself, in the stream, will be having a boss fight where I'm playing the evil person, the other two people are playing heroes, and together we build the world around it, and then how the heroes will lose that boss fight, but then cement the weaknesses so that in future other heroes can prevail. It's very much Final Fantasy, Legend of Dragoon, like final bit of it, and it just sounds really cool. Again, that I've said this so many times, but I love TTRPGs that just create story hooks or things that you can go, great, where else can we play a game that's related to it in a different system, whether it's backstories, whether it's artifacts, and now literally the cataclysm, like big bad evil, and that's what starts off your campaign. Just really, really cool. Really like that.
Yeah, I love it. I really love these origin cards. These are cool.
They're good, aren't they? Yeah, the little gifts on it. Yeah.
Oh.
So good. Yeah, no, it's gonna be really fun. Looking forward to that. Well, looking forward to the stream. Like I said, I know it went well.
Vibes of like Mistborn, because that starts with them losing and sort of stuff like that. So yeah, and how well is it doing? I'm looking at the Kickstarter. $2,000. $2,000.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I think hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll all be funded.
Oh, it's so close to its funding goal. It's like 350 away now, and I'm sure it will. I'm sure.
Again, it's only open for 2 weeks. So of course, if you're listening to this now, going, that sounds great. It's like, yeah. Yeah, again, that's the thing with ZineMub is that it's got a short window period of funding. The other one I was going to mention, again, because I've recently done a game of it, which will be out on Where at some point in the future, is The Words We Leave Behind. I think I've spoken about this before. This is like a duet epistolary game, I can never say the word, of letter writing, and it's based on how this is how we lose the Time War. I think, this is how we lose the Time War or win the Time War. I never remember the actual title of the novel because I didn't think the novel was very good personally. But it's this idea of like you are playing proxies of this faction during the Time War, and you and your counterpart are rivals essentially, and you're racing each other to get back to certain points and change it in favor for your faction. But of course, the more you play, the more that you send letters, you realize you're more like your proxy than the factions, and so you have to come to a choice. Minor spoiler: whether you decide to leave together or betray the other person, because you're not supposed to be communicating with the enemy and all that sort of thing. And really interesting. I love letter writing games. I think they're really fun. So those are the two that have popped up, and that one's by Craig Duffy of Lunar Shadow Design, who I've spoken to a few times on Where. So anyway, those are our plugs at the top of like, go check out the RPGs, check out the dungeons.
Please do. No, please do. But we have actually a topic today.
A topic. I know.
We actually have a topic. It's so unlike us.
I just come into the Zoom room to chat to you, Hamilton. That's
exactly. We could just keep going, but we do have a topic today. And what is it? What is it?
What are we talking about today? Yes, so today, friends, we are going to be looking at some new Unearthed Arcana.
Oh my gosh, no. I've read something. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I was going to say, what, we literally just talked about it now. Some Unearthed Arcana, we're going to be looking at the Forgotten Realms subclasses, which is basically, we know that there's going to be a big primer out later this year about the Forgotten Realms. They sort of, one of the original sort of campaign settings that you used to play your Dungeons and your Dragons in, and they've released this 8 subclasses. Some of them are reworked ones from previous, like 2014 source books, and some brand new to basically going forward. So, but all of them are sort of themed with the Forgotten Realms part. So there's like mentions of like Moonshine Isles, there's like 10 towns, all that sort of thing. So it's like, again, if you were going to play a campaign based in the new Forgotten Realms primer in that campaign, here's some ones to sort of like whet your appetite, so to speak. Like, if you're like, how could I play this? Because with with the sort of rebrand 50th anniversary of D&D with the new books and stuff, they've obviously sort of put some of the legacy subclasses away. So they're trying to put out some more ones that maybe flavor towards the campaign and stuff like that. So yeah, we're going to look at the 8 ones that we've got here today. And we've got one for Cleric, got one for Fighter, got one for Wizard, one for Bard, one for Paladin, one for Ranger, one for Rogue, and one for Sorcerer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple of them, as it mentions, are rebrands, yes, which is the Knowledge Domain Cleric, the Purple Dragon Knight Fighter, and the Bladesinger. I must admit, I don't even remember reading anything about the Purple Dragon Knight before. I don't even know. I did read Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide.
It's in there. That's where it is. Because even I was talking to my partner going like, I've never heard this. And he looked at me and I was like, you've clearly not read the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. I was like, I didn't want to. So yes. And also because we've not looked at Fighter itself. That was where it would have been in the 24.
That's probably why as well.
So
and I've never played a Fighter.
No,
I don't,
me neither.
It's like the most generic, most common used class. And I guess not basic, so I've never played it.
I also think it's one of those ones where I'm like, okay, if I want to play like a martial class, I want to go for something that's like a barbarian or a ranger, something like that. Because I don't know, for whatever reason, I always think, oh yeah, fighters, they've got superiority die and like these extra things.
They're really good though.
Yeah,
they are really powerful. I've played with in my home game of Curse of Strahd, had a fighter. Definitely MVP. Definitely MVP. Consistently MVP because of the extra attacks, action surges, as you said, superiority die. Incredible, like in combat. Like they are really good. And then, in Bowie's, I always mention Jeremy's character was majority fighter, very 1 level artificer, 1 level sorcerer. Again, action surge, extra attack. You're just like, fucking hell. And it was battle master as well, so it's just like using position. It's just like, Jesus Christ, I'm being absolutely overwhelmed by this one player. It's incredible. So I feel like an idiot for not playing it.
But I think it's one of those things where maybe if you, again, it's that sort of thing where you can really get into nitty gritty details of a fighter class and like really like, but I want to do this and this. So I think if you, again, I always think about like going, I bet fighters are really easy to play, but you need to read your character sheet.
Exactly,
I think that's the thing. Whereas at least with spells, you go, fireball should do it. This will do it. Rather than like,
that will do. Yeah. And it's the Flavor Flav that lacks in a lot of the fighter classes because it's like Battle Master or Arcane Archer, Cavalier, Champion. That was on Echo Knight, Eldritch Knight. Cool. Totally agree. Psy Warrior, Purple Dragon Knight, Rune Knight, and Samurai. Yeah. Most of them don't have like a flavor. They are a type of fighter, which is interesting. So apart from the Eldritch Knight, which gives it something, and the old Purple Dragon Knight, I guess, something sort of lore-based, if you know what I mean. Like, something
to like go, hey, what about this? And I think like when you think of like when we talked about Kryn and Dragonlance, they had all that sort of the orders of knights. I know that was slightly different as backgrounds, but at least it was like, oh, that's really flavoursome or whatever. And like different, like I know like in Tasha, it was like, oh, you want to play a certain fighter types, or here's the feats you need to be like a pugilist, all that sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, what if I want to be like a fighter but not a monk and all that sort of thing? So really getting into the nitty gritty about like maybe you are just Joe Bloggs, but you're very good at X, but you're not got all these other additional like what would be like, magical prowess on it. You're just Joe Bloggs. You're doing the best you can, but you can do a mean punch and you're very good with your sword. I think that maybe that's what it is. But yeah, you're right. All those like the only one I can think of is like Samurai, which maybe has connotations with certain like cultures, like real world cultures now, which maybe we don't need to bring into our games because you don't want to bring those maybe negative stereotypes into it as well. So, and why is it everyone always is like, oh yes, it's always something to do with the psyche. You've got like the mind warrior S, as you sort of saying, like, oh god, it's always about the mind rather than the brawn. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's what the old sort of Purple Dragon Knight tried to do, which was try and make it like a charisma, and it is still doing that, a charisma focused knight, like fighter, sorry. But you're right. It just feels like it always felt a bit one note, no matter what they've done with it. I've always felt.
So we're going to look through all 8 subclasses if we can in the time we have. Which one do you want to start off with? Do you want to start like from the top?
Alphabetical. Let's just go as it's put in. Yeah, I think
Great.
so.
All right, let's do that then. So, well, the first one that's on our list is the College of the Moon, which is a bard class. And I said to you off recording, I couldn't imagine anything bloody worse, to be honest with you. And I know this sounds really silly. I'll read out for you what it is. This is like inspires allies with primal tales. The College of the Moon traces its origins to the ancient druidic circles of Moonshade Isles, who entrusted the first bards with the tradition of chronicling the stories of islands and their people. Bards of this college draw from the Isles fey magic and primal power of the moon wells to bolster their allies, protect the natural world, and inspire their bardic works. So it kind of makes sense. Again, it's bringing that sort of druidic sort of nature thing to bards. I just can't imagine anything more boring. I'll be honest, like bards for me, they're like sort of like they're tellers of cool tales. They're sort of like this, that, the other, and they're like, oh, but guys, make sure we look after the planet. Again, it comes out to my sort of like distrust and maybe very, very narrow-minded view of what druids are. Obviously, we had that wonderful episode with Dee who expanded my views about it. But I just feel like this, as I know a class later we'll talk about, this one just talks about moonlight and moons for way too much. And I'm a bit like, there must be more to it. I guess I don't know. We'll say this at the top of the episode. You and I are not au fait with the Forgotten Realms in general. Like I know of bits and pieces, but I'm not au fait with the lore. How much is Mouche all about moons? You know, I like it feels like it's a bit one note for me, but I don't know. I don't know if that's like that is the deal of it, and so therefore it's trying to make a big deal about it. The moon wells sound interesting, but yeah, I don't know enough about it. So maybe again, because this is out of context of where it's going to be in that book, maybe that's what I need a bit more information about it. I wonder.
There's definitely something to do with them. I can't remember. One of my first characters was a planeswalker, not in the MTG sense, that got like amnesified because classic, and was a paladin that came from the moon, that like found themselves in the Moonshade Isles, and they were a knight. They were a paladin that had a relationship to the moon. The saloon was their god of choice, and I think there's like a saloon reference to the Moonshade Isles, but I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. But I think there is definitely something. There's a relationship between saloon, goddess of the moon, and Moonshade, but don't quote me on exactly where. But the thing with the College of the Moon, I totally agree. There's a lot of the word moon written over and over again, and I actually kind of.
You like this one, don't you?
Wouldn't go like, my gosh, I need to play this.
Yeah.
But what I enjoyed about it was taking a real left turn for a bard that I think hasn't been done. And I would like to see more of that, because I feel like a lot of other classes, and I think because of the way the bard is, this doesn't really affect as much. But as I've said a number of times, like Dragon's Duel, is that like the fact that it's consistently like we get different in the game. You get ridiculously random stats that don't correlate with the class that you're going to have. And then we played loads of games with them. And then you really find out very quickly that with all of the classes, depending on what subclass you can choose and the way you sort of utilize those, you can end up kind of working around no matter what your stats are.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so like, again, if you have a really high strength wizard, you can just choose Bladesinger, which we're going to come on to later, for example. Or if you get a really high intelligence rogue with a really bad, sort of dexterity, you go for Arcane Trickster, for example, right? And so there's a load of subclasses that really challenge the base idea of what the class is. And that's kind of what I liked about this, because it was like the first time I've looked at the bardic colleges and gone, this is really trying to force in, and I mean that a little bit is a bit clunky, but a different way of addressing the bard.
Yes.
Which the only other one that really comes to mind for that is the College of Spirits.
Yes, where it's like ghosts and sort of like the occult and stuff like that. Yeah, and of course, I really like that one.
I love that one, and it's the only bard I've really played as well, and they're great. But I think because the bard is the ultimate jack of all trades, right?
Yes.
The ultimate everything for anyone sort of class. And ironically, should be like the class that if you're not sure what to play, just go with a bard, because you can pretty much
do anything,
navigate it however you want.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have as many of those, probably because of that. So it really defines on its flavor. Like, am I going to be like all glamorous, or am I going to be all knowledge focused, or am I going to be more traditional folky tale sort of idea? And so that's all I kind of like about this, is that it's just doing more of that. We mentioned that it relates to the Moonshade Isles. So you have your level 3 Moonshade Folktales. And so as a magic action, you can invoke the power of a folktale, imbuing yourself with a primal magic until you use this feature again. When you use this feature, choose which of the following folktales you invoke. And so you get Tale of Life. You invoke a Tale of Vitality and Thriving Earth. When you restore hit points to a creature with the spell, you can expend a Bardic Inspiration die and increase the amount of hit points restored by a number equal to the roll of that die, which I think is really good.
I like that.
Bard's a great backup character, support characters,
yeah.
as well as being frontliners. As I've just said, they're sort of jack of all trades. But if you're lacking a cleric, this is very useful. The Tale of Gloam, which is you get to invoke a Tale of Mystery and Secrets. When you use a bonus action to give a creature Bardic Inspiration die, you can take the Disengage or Hide action as part of that bonus action, which I quite like, because anything that gives things more rogue features is always good.
I like the idea, though, that you go, like, you've got this, buddy, and then you just step out the way as the barbarian or the fighter comes in. You're like, oh, too much for me, but let me tell you about your doom. And you just point to the person behind you rushing in. Yeah,
I know. I like it more creepily, like, it's all gonna be fine. Sneak away. It does a little creepy laugh in the corner. Exactly. And then Tale of Mirth, you involve a Tale of Merriment and Fagar. When an enemy you can see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on a saving throw, you can take a reaction to expend a Bardic die. The creature then must roll the Bardic Inspiration die and subtract the number rolled from save. I love that.
Yes.
I love as I've said many times, I love reactions. I think they're great. I think we need more of them. And it builds on the not cunning words. What do I mean? Cutting words.
Cutting words. Yes. This is the thing. I really liked the Moonshade or Folktales thing, and then it being boosted up at level 14 as well. Because I think that to me is what makes this class stand out. It's just the other two features of this class, and admittedly the bards obviously don't get that many in terms of class features, because obviously they are magic users. They get that sort of more secrets and stuff like that, because I was looking at the actual class itself and I was like, oh yeah, they don't, it has to make it worthwhile. I just feel like level 3, the primal Loris, you learn druidic and a cantrip, and then you get some a proficiency and a skill, and then the Blessing of the Moonwells, you always have Moonbeam prepared. As a bonus action, cast it without spending a spell slot. You've got to maintain concentration, and then you just do light. And once you used it, you can't use it again until you have a finish of Long Rest. I'm just there going like, I guess Moonbeam, because it is such a powerful spell, that is something. I just feel like, I don't know, it just, those other two features, I don't know, it just feels a little bit like, I feel like as a bard, because there's, you got Bard, College of Swords, College of Valor, all that sort of thing. I just feel like there's not more to it, and that's why I'm just like, oh god, it's all about. I just, again, maybe I'm just being very sort of narrow-minded by this, but I just think like, hey, do you know what would be great here? I bring out old Moonbeam, and fucking hell, Darren, not Moonbeam again.
Moonbeam again.
And like, all right, well, I'll do another Tale of Gloam. Woo! Do a Hamilton, like, run away.
I think it's a very good spell though, and I do. Yes. But what I do like about it is, when anyone fails against the Moonbeam, another creature of choice can see within 60 feet who gains 2d4 hit points, which it's kind of weird that it's
That's
druidic.
Right, yeah.
I guess it is druidic, but it is very clerical in that sense. And it's very much like we're healing. It's very healing focused. And I kind of like that a little bit more. Like what am I gaining from other ones? This is probably quite beneficial. Is kind of what I'm getting at.
No, you know what? I'd forgotten that. Yeah, you do gain that extra 2d4 hit points. I think that's good. I guess for me, I would have it as a beam of light. So you have moon, sun, something else, like lightning. Yeah. I think that's the. I guess I know it's true.
It is not enough. It's not enough, because if you think like, I'm gonna go for 20 levels, right, of this. This is what I'm focusing my life on. Moonbeams. It's like, it's not enough. It's really not enough. It depends on how you want to play the game, but I love using the class as a real focus for how I build the characters. Like, characterization, and it's what you're looking forward to a little bit about leveling up. What exciting new features am I getting? What cool new stuff? There's that part of the game, and I know that's not the be all and end all, but it's why you choose your classes sometimes. Like, I want that really cool shit. I'm looking forward to my third extra attack, and the fact that you're like, it's level 6, I get Moonwells, yay, and then it's not until level 14. Now the thing I've already done before is better. And so, and I can now when you use your Tail of Gloom, say like that, you get Tail Life, Telemorph, you can roll an extra 1d6 and use that and in place of expending a Bardic Inspiration die, which is there. Tail of Gloom, you can also teleport, so you can go, ooh, it's all doom.
Whoosh, yes, gone. Like some terrible abracadabra magic trick. You're just then 60 feet back. Yeah, I think because obviously bards, their hit die, I believe, is a d6. So that's why I think they're using a d6 for this. But I agree. I think a d8 would be better.
Well, it should just rise with your bard. It should be one additional bardic die because they go up.
12 at the end. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. I seem to remember, and I've just checked the rules because I knew this was a big thing at some point. They were like, Moonbeam, you can only use it outside. You don't. You can use it wherever. But I just always like that idea. Like maybe that was the reason why I was in my head was a blockage because you have to use it outside where the sky is because that's where it comes from, and it's not. Like it's just the name.
You beam a moon, don't you? It doesn't come from the moon, right? Or does it come from the sky?
It says a silvery beam of pale light shines down in a 5-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range until it ends. Dim light. Blah, 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 blah. So, and the same thing with sunlight, by the way. I also used to think the same thing as well, is that you had to be outdoors for it. And maybe I just misread or played in a game where the DM was quite harsh, because they are quite powerful spells. As you said, like certainly for Moonbeam, it's a 2nd level spell. Range is 120 feet. So you can move it around. Obviously, it's a con save, radiant damage, a duration for 1 minute with concentration. So it was just one of those things where it just made me chuckle, because I was like, maybe that was the reason why I didn't like it, was because I always had to be outdoors to use it. I don't know.
I didn't think that, because it's a 40-foot cylinder, so it's not coming from. It's only 40 foot high, but I guess. But yeah, I used it a lot in BG3 because it's a good spell in that, because you just can like move it around, and you always got a spell slot for it.
It's a great sort of like if you imagine like a magnifying glass, you go just following behind the enemies. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I agree. I agree in principle with what you're saying. I just like the move. You know
what? You're right. As someone who's always like, I want to see different things, and then instantly I come to a different thing going, I don't like it.
But there's a reason why you don't like it, because it's not exciting enough. It's just
I feel like bards are so varied and interesting, and then I think maybe I've got that hang up about druids. I think that's what it is on the top of that, and I just feel like, why wouldn't you just play a druid, like, because you have like the circle of the moon or something like that. I think and a lot of my complaints in quotation marks about this is that why wouldn't you just play this other class rather than this, but with a subclass? And you know what? I know it's horses for courses. Different people like different things. So I think it's nice to see that why don't we give some druidic stuff
College of the Horse? I'd like that. It's like you got a mount.
Yes.
You do Gymkhana, so you do the little trotty trot, sort of like. No, Gymkhana's the crazy stuff. What's that trotty stuff called?
You're thinking of equestrian.
Yeah, the equestrian horses. What they're called though? They do the little dancing.
I think it says Gymkhana.
Is it Gymkhana? Okay, yeah. So the College of Gymkhana.
I assumed it was.
And you've got a little horse, and you do dainty little dances.
But is it like all these other companions we have? Is that you get to this level, it grows from small to medium.
Actually, you're just the horse. Okay, you are the horse. You are the horse.
Giving classes to animals.
I know we're plugging a lot of ZineQuest. Have you seen Horse Majeure?
No, what's that one?
The TTRPG. It's a TTRPG about you playing as the front and back end of a horse, like in a personal horse, and you have little quests to do, which is all about like dexterity based things. And it's got you have to do a horse race and stuff like that. But two people have to control the front and back of the horse in a TTRPG.
Oh, incredible! It feels very like Octodad.
Yeah, exactly.
Controller.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to check that out when I come back.
Yeah, it's only £2, so like people buy it. It's
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have a Cleric. We've got the Knowledge Domain. Again, this is one of the sort of reworked, reimagined ones from 2014. And this is interesting because I watched the video about this, and I would highly recommend checking out the Wizard of the Coast video, which discusses it. Mackenzie, who's talking about it, I think they do an excellent job, actually. I think they're really good. Once we get past the beginning, we're like, let's talk about the artifacts for like 30 seconds. What they say is that before, the knowledge domain cleric was always seen like, it's the smart cleric. It's it's like they have all this knowledge and they're very smart, so they only use them in social situations. But now the focus is more on like past, present, future. It's all about the mind. And so what's that has reflected in is that they've tried to build more combat-y stuff into like the spells, for example.
Yeah.
So it's not just like you're not going to be stuck if you like suddenly, oh no, there's a fight that's broken out at the academic convention, and you like, oh no, too much for me. So I thought that was really interesting. So it says here, like, unearthed secrets and mastered the mind. The knowledge domain values learning and understanding above all. Clerics who tap into this domain study esoteric lore, collect old tomes, delve into secret places of the earth, and examine the process of the mind itself. Ooh. And interestingly, compared to some of the other classes, it goes back into what it did in 2014, which talked about like, hey, here's some gods that you might want to talk about or sort of think about as well, which we don't have. Again, clerics do have that a lot in their sort of subclasses. It says like, hey, if you want to do a knowledge domain, we've got stuff like Ogma and Gong. Gong? Yeah, Gong like Pong.
Gong, yeah.
But even Asmodeus, Mystra, all that sort of thing. Like again, you can really, it's not just like, oh, they must be good aligned. Like Asmodeus, oh, no.
Exactly. And I like the shift quite a lot. I think I always find clerics have to be like, in my mind, just war priest is how I think of it a lot of the time. It's kind of how they've been focused, apart from, as you said, like the domain of knowledge. I think the spells that you get in this lot, as you've got like command and comprehend languages, detect magic, detect thoughts, identify, mind spike. So command and mind spike, much more sort of like aggressive forms of mental adaptation. So giving it a bit more like a psionic quality potentially. Yeah. Tongues is still like the arcane eye, banishment, confusion, scrying, and synaptic static, which I've never heard of actually.
I've not heard of that one. No, but banishment is such a great spell. If that works, you're like, It's like, nobody touch me as I try and concentrate on leaving this creature away. One thing, again, just to mention, again, because it's mentioned in the video as well, is that level 3 Blessings of Knowledge is that you gain proficiency with one type of artist tools. So they're really making a focus on this artist tools, as we spoke about a couple of times ago now. And that's great. I think just for me, again, is just I wouldn't make it just artist tools. I'll make it all the tools. You know, that's the only thing, again, because they've done a little bit of work about like, you know, what you could use the tools for, etc. But I guess it totally makes sense. You're very knowledgeable. You've gone to night school, and now you know how to use the Potter's tools. You know, so that I just thought that was really interesting. And again, on top of that, you get 2 of the following expertise in these 2 skills: so Arcana, History, Nature, or Religion. So that's double proficiency. Pretty sweet. You know? That's
pretty good. That synaptic static is one of the coolest spells I've heard of in a long time. Okay, choose a point within range, and course it's 5th level. Psychic energy to explode there. Each creature within a 20-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make an intelligence saving throw. Creature with an intelligence score of 2 or lower can't be affected by spell. A target takes 8d6 psychic damage on a fail save, or half on a success. After a fail save, it has muddled thoughts for 1 minute, which means it has to roll a d6 and subtract that number from all its attack rolls and ability checks, as well as its constitution saving throws to maintain concentration for 1 minute. The target can make an intelligence saver at the end of each turn, ending the effect on an success, which actually is super OP. That's really, really like, if you fail on that, not only do you do 8d6 damage, but you also could leave, you know, at least for a round, a d6 minus to all attack rolls and ability checks. If you're against someone like Vecna, you know, high level players, like high level spell casters, and the concentration saving throw thing, that could be a game changer. I think that's a great spell, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, I love this idea. And like, it just imagine that you've just been like devastated by some sort of cool like mental whip, and then you're just like, I'm trying to recover from this effect. You know, you're sort of bamboozled by what's going on. Yeah, what a cool spell. And that's a 120-foot range as well, and a sphere of 20 feet as well. So,
yes, you can capture a lot of people with that. That is super great.
What a cool opening move. You you step out, proper Doctor Strange style, crack your neck, and then just do a big portal and then just throw it at them. You know, that's very cool.
I
love that. Mind magic is another new feature for it, which is interesting. I again, totally makes sense. I think as a magic accent, you expend one of your channel divinities to manifest your magical knowledge. Choose a spell from one of those knowledge domain spells that you've got prepared, and as an action, you can cast that spell without expending a spell slot or needing material components. Now, one thing I find interesting is that they're really focusing on this material component stuff. And I think I've said it before that I don't really give a toss about that sort of thing. I think like you've got the spell slot to do it. Whatever about I guess unless your hands are tied or something and you can't reach your components pouch, but the idea, like, you add a spell slot, you go, but I've not used my Channel Divinity yet to turn creature or whatever it is. You go, I'm gonna get that spell slot. I'm gonna get that another synaptic static back. Really cool.
Yeah, they've kind of playing with the spell slots things a lot more, and we'll come on to Spellfire a bit later, which I really like because of the way they've played on the sorcerer points a bit in that as well in a really cool way. But this is a good example of that. I totally agree. I think it's good, and Channel Divinity can sometimes feel a little bit half-baked sometimes, that you're like, oh, I don't really need Turn Undead, I don't really need these abilities, so to give it just this sort of overarching benefit that is like, I'm going to use this at least once a day because I might as well, sort of thing, is really good.
It's very similar to, again, we'll come on to it, but the Rogue, the Scion of Free, that they have like new ways of doing cunning action. And then and it says here, like, as well, like, oh, here's an option, another option we're going to add for this subclass. I think that's really cool. And I wish more classes, again, we say that I've not read through the full player's handbook, but I like this idea of having like, here's what it is, the base of, but then here's the different flavors of it depending on your subclass. I just think that's really cool. And then just, again, making it special that you suddenly go, wait, I'm not out of spell slots. There's one last thing I can do, and it's a risk. I've never done this before. Just, really cool. Unfettered Mind is interesting. So this idea that you gain telepathy out to 60 feet. You can simultaneously contact a number of creatures equal to your wisdom modifier. So it turns out in the original 2014, you could only do it to one person telepathy. You couldn't do it like a group party call. So now it's just a little bit easier. So you go, hang on, rather than like reconnecting yourself like a telephone operator, you're like, everyone's on the call. Everyone's on the Discord call now. We're all here. And additionally, if your total for an intelligence check is lower than your wisdom score, you can use the score of your wisdom score in place of that total. So if you've got a really high if you're doing that kind of check for something, you go, well, I've got a 15 wisdom check, I'm going to use that instead rather than rolling for it. I just thought that was really cool, different,
I get that now. Yes, if your intelligence check is lower than your wisdom score, you can use that score in place too. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I just think I've not seen that before. Again, so it totally makes sense where if you got, and that's at level 6, right? So it makes you go, right, well, rather than going for feats, perhaps I go, well, I'm going to go for that ability modifier increase. And
and I'm only going to, and also I'm just going to dump the intelligence stat in some ways, and I'm just going to push it into my wisdom because I don't need to balance between the two. I can just focus on wisdom, which is my spell casting modifier.
Yeah.
But I want to be an intelligence based because I'm a knowledge based cleric. But then you feel you need to bump up intelligence and wisdom, and you're sort of, and actually it's not, I wouldn't say it's not really a buff of the game, because actually you were nerfed by the need to balance both those mental stats, rather than being able to put some of your upgraded stats or level ups instead of feat, or going for more feats instead of having to use your ability score improvements.
Right. And of course, if you're like with this idea of like encouraging you to put more stuff into your wisdom score, your spells will get powerful. Like you still can do stuff. Like you can your spell save DC will go up, and you can use command that's going to go higher, the DC for that. So I just really like this idea of like, because the Unfettered Mind, like, he's like, come for the telepathy, but stay for your wisdom score. Like, you're gonna like do really well on that. So really like that.
The last one with Divine Foreknowledge, as a bonus action, you magically expand your mind to the possibility of the future. For 1 hour, you have advantage on D20 tests. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
I think that's really good. You can also restore your use of this feature by expending a level 6 spell slot, which is very cool. And I really like it. It kind of just annoyed me. Only annoyed me. It's a bit of extreme name. But it felt like they should have just got Portent. Yes. I should have just given them Portent I'm surprised I didn't give that in the prepared spells. That's what it made me think. The minute I read that, I was like, that's a great idea. Why have they given them Portent? Do they get it anyway? I thought it's a wizard only.
Portent is wizard, so that's where you would roll some D20s before the session, and then at any time you can, it's like up to 3, I think, and at any time you can just change a roll. I think it's either yourself or one of your allies, or even one of the
School
GMs.
of Divination that gets it.
You can change what it is. Or go, oh, that's a natural 20. Well, I'm going to change that to a 3 because I can use Portent.
I love Portent. It's one of my favorite, like, really intelligent, well thought out class abilities, and I just thought that would be a really perfect thing to have added into this as part of maybe this divine form. It's quite high level because portent is at second level thing.
I was going to say the wizards, yeah.
So why not just give it with the blessings of knowledge instead of proficiency in one type of artisan tools? Maybe just give them portent would be a cool balance.
I guess because as far as I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I believe advantage overall roughly gives you as it averages out to a +5 to your checks on average. So you're likely to succeed on stuff. I think it's interesting that it's all checks. I wonder, again, maybe I'm just being a bit of a dick about this perhaps, but maybe it should be to saving throws, particularly you can see something's coming to you whoa, no thanks, that sort of thing. But I agree. I like the portent type thing. I like that idea of changing things.
Yeah. I just don't think I can argue against it when it's it's actually quite overpowered, and I keep arguing that there's not enough overpoweredness in D&D at high levels. So I kind of
hour.
For an hour, I think it's really good. I'm actually really happy for it because I'm actually kind of I want more of that because I think just giving people advantage is fucking good. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to say that you can't do anything about it because there's so many things that give people disadvantage, which means you just get them back to a base level. But I think it's a lot. I'm quite happy. I think it's a bit basic in the sense of you just get advantage, and that's why I like the portent because it's
it can be advantage or disadvantage. I like the playing with stuff. I agree with that.
Play with it. And it's a fun little thing at the beginning of the game when you're I've rolled my portent dice. Oh, I've got a 20. I've got a 4. I can use those. Or
and
I've
a
got
10, we'll see.
Exactly. No. Yeah, it's always interesting. So
no, I agree. It made me interested again to because we did clerics with Naomi, and she advocated for good stuff, and she was saying that she wasn't too fussed about the knowledge one because it was more social than fighting and stuff like that. So now I think it feels more balanced. It feels exciting. Yeah, if you get to that level 17,
have to get Naomi back on again to talk about it.
Oh yeah, get everyone else back on who's ever done any this is why you should play X. And okay, everyone
back on to talk about the druid
big round table. Everyone can come and tell me about how I'm wrong about druids.
We should do a round table.
Everyone has to fight for their
we
for
should
their
get
class.
Everyone who's been on as a guest to do different classes.
We'll have to get someone to actually do fighting. We have to finish off the classes.
We'll get someone else to do fighter, and then we'll get all of us on to talk about all the different classes. Yeah, and we can all
I like that.
go on Con Ranger for about an hour.
Well, speaking of fighters, let's dive in and talk about the Purple Dragon Knight. So, like I said, I watched the video. I think I was interested in a Purple Dragon Knight. It's not the best by any means, but it'll be remiss of me not to mention the vast amount of actually comments under the video, and no doubt other people will let me know, but hey, just so you know, the Purple Dragon Knight isn't the Purple Dragon Knight anymore. So essentially there's a lot of lore around it in the Forgotten Realms about how this Order of Knights was originally about nothing to do with dragons. If anything, they got their name from defeating an ancient black dragon who as they got older became purple and all that sort of thing. And basically what it feels like they've done, or what may be happening in the Forgotten Realms primer, is that they're rewriting bits of the lore, and so the actual Purple Dragon Knight has nothing to do with that initial sort of story or anything like that. It just become a sort of hey, what if we got you as a fighter to have your own dragon and basically become a how to train your dragon kind of thing. You're flying through the air with the dragon, a very Dragonlance I can just imagine it, and you're just wow, really cool. I find that really interesting myself. But just heads up, we do know about the actually this is not lore, but
I think it's just that Cormyr is known as the land of the purple dragon, and that's kind of and I think for some people it's kind of quite critical to them.
Yes,
and I think I've come from Warhammer. This is a minor kerfuffle.
You just looked at me when I told you this, and you were like, "So?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I agree."
No, but comparative to but I mean, this is this is a tiff at the checkout queue at Tesco's in comparison to the all-out total extermination of the whole planet that occurs when someone makes a misstep in or change to Warhammer lore. So in this, I'm like, you know what? A couple of people kind of go, I'm a little bit upset on the internet. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I get people writing me 14-page letters about about why I've got something wrong. So yeah, exactly.
Look.
So yeah, so with this, I'm a bit more like, yeah, these guys are actually being quite nice about it. So yeah, fine. I feel I kind of get it. At least they're not like calling me all other names under the sun. I like it, but it's obvious why I like it. It's because it is actually a better version of the Drake Warden, because you get a cool purple dragon companion that is not as crap as it is in the other one, because you get to use it as a mount as well, and have it as, and it's just, I want to play a character as a dragon, pet dragon. I think that's so cool. I think that's awesome. And it actually gets to do things earlier on with a much more, I think it like scales up much better.
It scales up much better. It automatically has a breath weapon, whereas the Drake Warden from the Ranger subclass, you gain it after a little while. And again, same thing is that when you start off with the sort of dragon, it is small. It then grows to medium, large, and there's that thing about the flies. It almost goes through its awkward teenage years that he can't. If you're flying on it, if it's not on the ground at the end of its turn, it's going to fall. Like classic. I know how that feels. The thing that I find about it is that the way it sort of talks about it, some people were sort of mentioning like it feels like either you're a dragon rider or you're a cool commander in the battlefield. Should they be two separate things or the same thing? But I just think there's something amazing about being on the dragon and then doing something like a rallying surge where you give this option to your allies to be like advance so they can make an additional like unarmed weapon attack or strike or retreat. So if you're a spellcaster, you're like, well, sod this, I'm going to get out of the way, and then the huge dragon comes in. Like I just think there's a really cool image for that, and I think maybe that's the thing, is that people aren't sure like, do I want to be in the air, do I want to be up front, do I want to be at back? So maybe there's a little bit of confusion there, but I think it's really cool.
I'm going to plug Wraithborn again because I do it every week at the moment. But I've got a character class in that called Wyvern Riders, which is part of the whole, one of the whole like nations is all about, because obviously I was going to make one that was all venerating dragons. And this is the thing that I kind of liked about dragons, and is I'm trying to work on is this idea of like, dragons that fly, yes, there's definitely this, but like there's something really cool about the Smaug encounter when he's just on the ground, right? And he's so imposing as physically there in front of you. And like as a beast that walks, they are brutish. Like there's something about, I don't know, in Skyrim and they're flying about and it's kind of like, it's like a plane, right? You see a plane in the sky and you're like, oh, it's so small. It's so tiny, and then you see these huge, like, and if, I don't know,
mental monsters. Yeah, when you're getting into them, you're like, no, this is not. These look unnatural. Yeah,
exactly. And like, there's that really. My wife actually has one of those fears of things that are not the right scale, like a phobia of things that, like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is like her worst nightmare. She can't watch it, right?
Really?
Like, but if things are like, if someone's made like a big toothbrush, like a something for like a picture or something, or big scissors to cut like she finds that really creepy.
That's wild.
Right? Yeah, it's just, everyone has their own phobias, right?
Yeah,
so like, when she saw one of those big cargo planes, she was like, that makes me feel so uncomfortable.
Wow.
And even I kind of am like, I kind of get it, right? There's, that big Russian one that like fits planes inside the plane.
Yeah, that's weird. There's a weird sort of Russian doll. Yeah, the Russian doll-esque kind of
it's
thing.
Like a Russian doll plane. It's like, but that's kind of what I think about with dragons, is that I was trying to do this thing about like riding a dragon that's on the ground, hulking towards you, is actually slightly as equally, if not more terrifying than it flying down and raining at you, because you're like, well, maybe I can get out of the way or I can hide in a building. But when it's facing an army and it just goes left to right, I'm doing, then that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, that's just kind of what when you were saying about the rallying surge and like being at the front of the sort of being like a forward party and not maybe doing it from the sky, but being like on the ground is still pretty dangerous, So
again, I always refer to like How to Train Your Dragon, because I do think that's such an interesting way of looking at dragons, because they clearly, in my head, they use like the behaviors of a cat to like determine it. And I'm just thinking to myself, God, yeah, a massive, like, my cat, Fancy Alice, somebody riding, firstly her, A, wouldn't happen, but B, she would be terrifying, because in that sense of like, her eyes go big, the bum wiggles, and then she just pounces. You're dead. You're dead. That a big creature comes out when she pats like insects to bat them. I can just imagine just a massive paw coming down and crushing people or swiping them out the way.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention as well, it's something an interesting thing. I think I don't know necessarily about the Drake Warden and how it deals with this, but like if your dragon is for whatever reason injured or taken out in combat, you can resurrect it with like a touch of your second wind. Like you can expend a use of that, but all afterwards you can just do like a 1 hour ceremony to bring it back, which I thought was interesting. Like again, it doesn't say you need material components, which obviously I was like, I'm sure you would normally have to do that, but I think it's interesting that like, we don't want you to spend money on your pets.
No, I really like it. I was really happy with that because I was really concerned like about how you'd manage it, and they managed it quite well.
Yeah,
they haven't made it a magical incarnation, which I thought was kind of weird. That you then whatever happens to it, you can spend an hour. But I think it's just innate your connection to it and your bond.
The bond, absolutely.
We've been doing Dritz run-throughs and Guinevere. And the relationship between Dritz and Guinevere is really keen, and the fact that he knows if Guinevere like dies on the material plane, their soul goes back.
Yes, they'll be fine. They
recover in the astral plane, and so I kind of thought maybe I would have liked a little bit more lore, a little bit of flavor flav to go with it. Of like, or the reason you can just spend an hour and it's fine is because it's to resurrect it is because you have this like bond with something, I don't know, with an elemental plane, or dragons in this realm, spirits don't ever die. I don't know, that it's something. But I would just like a little bit of story behind why that's the case.
What's interesting, again, I know we keep comparing it to the Drake Warden. Obviously, that's from Fizzband as well. And the Drake Warden allows you to pick what kind of creature it is. Again, it's a summoning thing. You have it until you do another long rest and reset it, and you could change what the type is. Here, it is just an amethyst dragon, so it is to do with the jewel dragons, sort of like, and it's all about like psychic sort of powers, that sort of thing. So that its breath weapon, for example, is something called a gravity breath, which again I saw in the comments people going like, well, what am I going to do with that? And I'm like, probably a lot of cool things. Like again, it's what you were saying before about the bard class. It's like, how can I use a dragon that's not like a elemental fire breath in some way? So I actually was like, I think you could have a really interesting time of it and changing around. But I agree, I think because of the comments we had about the particular like, purple dragons, blah blah blah, and maybe people going like, but I want to have it to be any dragon. I think you just take the purple out of the title and it could be like any elemental dragon, or even a gem dragon of some sort.
Gem dragons.
I think just to change it up a bit, because we don't have gem dragons in the Drake Warden from what I remember.
I think you're right. I think the only point is the gravity breath isn't like a damage dealing thing. So I think it'd be really interesting for them to manipulate the different elements into non-naturally aggressive breath weapons.
Fun,
So I was thinking like make them environmental based ones. So like the ice dragon would make a frozen layer, which means it's difficult terrain. Maybe the fire dragon does maybe something, so like it just can breathe out the ice. It does like minimal damage if someone's there, but really what it does is it coats, it kind of like does like a sheen of, I'd say like a mist that sheens the ground and ices the ground, sort of thing. Or maybe it's
I was thinking like maybe the simmering heat makes you like it's very disadvantage to Constitution saving throws or something like that, like a debuff of some sort,
or like heats metal or something like that, or like heats but I think that exactly. So just
disadvantage on
they'd
something.
have to think of something more like esoteric or whatever the word would be for each of them. Like poison, an acid breath one might mean that it starts corroding metal, so weaponry or something
weaponry
like that
could go down. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it doesn't like it, and it takes the AC of armor down by 1 point until it's fixed. So it's like the acid won't get through armor, but it will hinder the armor or something like that.
I agree. I think like debuffs and environmental things will be so much more interesting. Just again, it's playing around with what we think dragons can do. The sort of final bits to this particular purple dragon I thought was really interesting. So firstly, like when you get to a certain point, so like level 7, the dragon rider, obviously you can fly around on it, etc. You can share second wind with it. So when you're trying to use it as a fighter yourself, you're getting some hit points back, you can give that as well at the same time to your dragon, which I quite like. I like, again, that talks about that bond sort of thing.
And that's when you also get to add damage to that breath, which then seems appropriate, which you
Yes.
then could expand on. Instead of just saying 2d6 force damage, I think you could say, I like force damage because it does negate the need to get down to the nitty gritty of like resistances and stuff like that. But then they've already done the thing before that I would say it's an elemental damage of your color of your choice, elemental strike, whatever it is, elemental breath, but it ignores resistances.
Right.
Like they've just done before.
Absolutely.
So that because I'd like you to gain the benefit of vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, rather than just make it force damage. And I think that would be fun in some respects.
That's good. And then like sort of like level 15 is the one I really want to talk about. So again, yes, this is where you can fly, etc. But tandem attack. So when you take the attack action on your turn, you could forgo one of your attacks to command your dragon to make a Ren attack. Alternatively, you can forgo your attacks to command the dragon to use its gravity breath. So again, from what the video was saying, is that you can really go, ooh, let me do like a dragon, then me, or then me twice, or the dragon twice. Like, I just thought that was really interesting that you're working together to sort of like, again, you're fighting together, almost like a very terrible, horrific dance where you're just giving out this damage. And using your gravity breath and take a bit of damage. Okay, but now they've been pushed away. Now it's time for me to go. And I just thought that was really cool because no other sort of animal companion does that. It always acts after your turn, but you can just choose to do it then. So yeah.
And it's the perfect class to do it. And this is why Rangers are shit, because you get so many attacks as you do get a lot of attacks. You do get a lot of attacks at Rangers as well. You do. But I think why they don't utilize that as much, but you get so many attacks.
Yes.
You can get so many attacks, particularly with Axe and Surge with a fighter. So it's perfect to utilize that as part of this as a strategy to make this work. So I'm all in favor of this. I like this. I think it's good. It kind of annoys me a bit that you just should make a companion act with its own level of attacks. I know there's the argument, and I've said this many times on the show. I know there's the argument of like, well, it unfairly balances one character. It's like, yes, but if you're in like, you can have a party of 4 or a party of 5. Your DM just has to know that you've got a party of 5 because you've got a companion. That's what it should just be.
Yeah.
And everyone can take a companion if they want to, and that shouldn't be a problem to a certain extent. Yeah. And we know that not everyone will do because it's more work. But I think if someone's got one, it should just have its own amount of attacks.
Agreed.
And it should have its own initiative or your initiative. I don't mind either one. It just acts on your turn, before or after your turn, or amongst your turn. Yeah. And I think that shouldn't be a problem.
No, I agree. I think it's like, again, as long as you know that you are looking after your pet, you're looking at, you know what it's going to do, and it's already in the initiative order. Yeah, as a GM, go, cool, you absolutely have all these extra things. My creatures, they're going to get legendary actions as a result. You know, they're going to, it just makes sense to me. Like, the action economy is always going to be in the player's favor. So you're like, cool, I'm going to have some more creatures in, which is absolutely
exactly.
Lair attacks, all this. You know, it's like, I wouldn't complain about it at all. The reason they've chosen these classes is that they want to play. Here's the story beats they want to pick. They want to have the big dragon. They want to have that big moment when they fly into battle.
Exactly.
Give it to them. You know, enjoy. You go, okay, this is definitely going to happen at some point. So we'll have giants that fight them. You know, dragons versus giants.
Because the silly thing is this: you might as well get a dragon. You might as well story-wise say, "I'd like to have a dragon, but it's just a monster that I make friends with." Because why? That's better for me in the action economy. Ironically, because then I can have a freaking dragon. Do you know what I mean? This, you know, and this should feel as good. And I know it's like, we should balance out the classes, but it's not PvP.
No,
you know, we're not doing. It's not Rangers versus fighters, and to a certain extent, it's, you know, it's about just say in this. If one of your players has this, be prepared. They've got basically an additional half a character, so challenge ratings appropriate to suit, or something like that. You know, or something like that.
I agree. And if it's, you don't want to add more NPCs to control, like more mooks for them to fight and hit points, that's where you were sort of saying like breath weapons and all that sort of thing. It should be debuffs or the environment or something like that. I think that's onto you as a GM to go, this is really interesting. Here's the party. You'll know what their weaknesses are. You know that some of them are going to be bad at wisdom scores or this and you go, okay, here's a toolbox. What's my first round of attacks? Is it the synaptic snap myself? You go, fuck, everyone's got confusion as a result. All right, let's go on to the Paladin subclass, the Oath of the Noble Genies. Paladins sworn to the Oath of the Noble Genies revere the forces of the elemental planes. Did we not just do a huge travel book club about the elemental planes?
I know. Go find that wherever you find good podcasts.
So yeah, through taking this oath, they draw power from the 4 different types of genies. So we've got the Dao, who are masters of the earth, Jinn, masters of the air. We've talked about Nefast in the past, the Quest of the Infinite Staircase person. We've got Ifrit, which is masters of fire, and Marids, who are masters of water. And these all create splendid and destructive displays of elemental might. So I quite like this because, again, the previous time when we've had elemental stuff has obviously been the monk. So so it's like, but what if we brought a paladin into it and having those sort of like oaths to deity-like creatures? And I just, it totally makes sense to have that the destructive power and the passion of all these elements. From what we've seen, again, through our travel book club, we've found some really cool, interesting like tales and thematic things. So it totally makes sense that you would do it as a way to show your sort of divineness through the paladin class.
I think it's an interesting one. I think, does it need to be genie? I don't necessarily think it does. I think it can just be considered like the elements, just like an oath of the elements. But I think it's trying to give it just not be, as I said off podcast, like fire breath, fireball, water sphere, stuff like that, which I kind of get, and they're trying to give it more. I think there's questions, you've mentioned as well, like there's notes on the bottom of the thing saying like there are some questionable practices of the genies in the lore, and so like is that really what you want to be tying to as a paladin necessarily? And so maybe they're going to be adjusting that, or it's not all the same, but it's just being aware of that. I think what they've done as well is they're trying to link it to Kalimshan a bit, and my very limited knowledge of Kalimshan comes from a Dritz novel, which we haven't got to yet. And also one of the earliest Forgotten Realms novels that I listened to as an audiobook such a long time ago, which was all based in Kalimshan, and it's all gone out of my head. But there's a relationship it's sort of based on sort of Northern African sort of symbolism and stuff like that, and sort of
interesting.
and it's sort of Arabic as well. It's kind of like that sort of move from Egypt across to Arabia, and that sort of influences in the whole sort of region. It's a bit, it's very old school D&D. I'm
getting senses of like Dark Sun, for example, like the sort of like a little bit of that, not to the same extent, but absolutely.
But that's probably why it's kind of taken this form, I think, to kind of give it that flavor, which again is kind of questionable a little bit as well. So you're just sort of like, you just got to take that where it is. But the actual, like, if we ignore all the sort of like top layer of it, the actual way that it works as a, like, from a functional point of view is very interesting. And, as someone who's played a paladin a very long time ago now, but played them, I think they're great fun, written subclasses for them. They're good fun to make. And I think adding more elemental things to it, which also have some additional conditions added to them, which is their first thing, is this elemental strike. So immediately after you cast your Divine Smite, you can expend one use of your Channel Divinity, which we already mentioned is something that you might not use a lot, or you also want to use just to buff things up. You get 4 different, depending on what genie you've chosen, your chosen genie to sort of like focus under, is you get the Dow's Crush, which target then has the grappled condition, escape DC equal to your spell save DC, which could be pretty high, and you just get the standard grapple conditions from that.
Hey, great.
Jin's Escape, you get to teleport to an unoccupied space that you see within 30 feet of yourself and take on a mist-like form. So it's Misty Step, but super Misty Step, because you are Misty afterward, which lasts to the end of your next turn, which, whilst in this form, you are immune to grappled, prone, and restrained conditions, which is kind of cool.
Like, why would you should always do that. Like, I feel like, I guess, like, you might want to be close to other people, I don't know, but I'm just like, I love that. You're like, oh, I'm Misty, you can't touch me. Yeah, it's that's such a cool Jin Escape one. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. The Freak Fury of taking an extra 2d4 fire damage is okay. It's not very powerful.
It makes sense, kind of, but it's a bit
a bit boring, because like all the other ones are quite like, oh, they now have grapple, so it's kind of like smite grappled, that's cool, because then you've got advantage on them, all those sorts of things. Then for that turn, teleport, cool, get out of the way, and I can't be grappled, or prone, which is fine. And the Marriage Surge, which is like each creature of choice within 10 foot emanation originating from you makes a strength saving throw against your spell save and is pushed 15 feet straight away from you and has the prone condition, which again is pretty cool.
Yeah, again, it's like sort of like hitting your hand down on the floor, superhero landing. Yeah, people being blown back.
So cool.
So cool. Yeah. I mean, I understand like people like, oh, I just want to do extra damage because more damage is good. But I'm just like all these other effects are really cool. Because again, what it feels like is that you're running into, certainly with the Dow's Crush and the Marriage Surge, you're rushing into battle and think people being blown away or they're stuck and you're just like hacking away at stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Djinn Escape is maybe you're just like, everyone's leaving and you're like, I'm going to get one final thing in and then I'm going to, boop, bamf away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just feel like there's so much interesting, but I understand like we need to have like a combat, like a damaging option. I just feel like maybe it should be like 2d4 fire damage, but then and it scales up, and then each round after you've hit, you get another d4 damage because you'll set the thing on fire. That sort of thing.
I like that. Or they have to put the flame out, exactly.
Yeah, they have to use their turn to cut themselves out.
Because the thing with the Dow's Crush, you then, for that turn, they are grappled, right?
Grappled and restrained, yeah.
Yeah, and restrained, which means you would tell your party, I'm going to smite, bam, fighter, this is your chance to use extra attack, action surge, go for it. Right, this is you just keep going, like hack at this thing. Everyone use all your high level spells. You've got advantage on all these things. Let's go, sort of thing. And no dex. There's no dex saves. You can't dex save out of a bloody any area effect. It's perfect timing for all of that stuff.
Yeah,
that's super powerful, and that's the one I would probably choose. I think out of everything, because I think that's a really great. I think the push 50 feet and then prone also gives you advantage, but they can get as well. But then it can be a bit annoying because you might do that to all your friends a lot.
That's true. Yeah, it says each creature. Yeah, so it could be So I guess it depends on like whether or not you're rushing in as a big horde of creatures, and then like everyone else, your companions aren't there. I guess but I just think they're really interesting, and you can choose to do whichever one they want. You don't have to tie yourself down to one.
You don't, do you?
No,
Sorry.
No.
Okay.
But this is the thing. Stuff like, say, the Barbarian Storm Herald was that. Like, you'd lock into something early on, and it was always that. And you could change it at every long rest. But, so I just think that's, really interesting. I think one thing you'd said off recording, and I want to bring it up here, is that I like that, we've got, earth, fire, wind, water, etc. But what about the other elements, like ooze or salt or lightning? I'm for that. I'd love to see more of that because, again, we've talked about ooze recently, and I just want more elements because they're so fucking weird and wild. And I think that's the only thing. I understand why they've done the 4 elements, but if we get like like if it was like an oath of noble elements, but it's like the oath of noble para elements or quasi elements, and like you build up on all these different elements or something.
Magma and ooze. Yeah, salt, dust, but even like dust.
Dust would be great.
Dust one. Yeah, or like the negative energy. Like
positive and negative would be really interesting as well. Yeah.
Just suck everything into like a vortex.
Like a black hole. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get some very flavoursome genie spells as well. You got stuff like Chromatic Orb, Elementalism, Thunderous Smite, all the way up to like Banishing Smite and Contact Other Plane as well, and Conjuring Minor Elementals, all that sort of thing. So again, all the spells that you get sort of like when you get spellcasting at level 3, totally makes sense. And I quite like, again, it's that sort of thing where it's like rather than going, oh, which one should I pick? It's like, oh, these make sense along with your normal sort of paladin spellcasting spells. Genie Splendor you also get at level 3, which I think is interesting. So when you're not wearing medium or heavy armor, you gain a plus to your AC equal to your charisma modifier. And it's interesting because most paladins that they're always like, oh, I've got my chainmail on, I've got me this, I've got me that. And so the fact is like, again, it feels like very like monk and barbarian in the fact that like, hey, you don't have heavy armor, but because your main modifier is so big, that's what goes to it instead. So, and also like certain like chainmail, obviously you had disadvantage on stealth checks, etc. Maybe you're like, actually I don't need it, I'm so powerful as a charisma, you can't hit me. That's what I keep thinking of. These paladins are so suave and also they control the elements.
The thing that annoys every paladin is your stealth killer, right? That's the problem. You can't, and you look at D&D and the way that people make the games, like they make the games, one of the critical elements is stealth. Like, how often are you stealthing in a game, right? Like,
equal or if not more than you are looking for things, investigating things.
Exactly.
Perception, investigation,
Perception
stealth.
and investigation skills, as well as stealth, are like the perception checks, dexterity saving throws, wisdom saving throws, and stealthing are like your critical elements, right?
Yeah.
And this is, a lot of the time why I do say, like, I love rogues, because they do work well against the mechanics that are pushed against you a lot of the time, because they work well with those things. And so to have heavy armor give you a disadvantage on all stealth checks fundamentally breaks 1/3 of your gameplay's big mechanics. Like, and I know that's really silly, but outside of combat mechanics. And so to have a paladin subclass, which means you don't have to wear heavy armor at level 3,
great, isn't
is
it?
a game changer.
Yeah.
I think it's literally the most game changing thing that they've put in, I think, the whole of this thing.
Yeah.
And it's so small and it's so minor, but it really does make paladins like really cool again.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty silly, a thing to be like hung up on, but for me it means a lot.
Because the amount of times that it's always the paladin who has the lowest roll, etc. And often people are like, well, I'm going to get lucky. Is that I'm going to take a feat to combat this. Here is like, okay, we're actually rewarding you for not going for the armor. And of course, we know that high AC, maybe you do need it later on when you're against a dragon or something like that. But at low levels, when you're just figuring out like what you want to do and stuff like that, I think it's great.
You're not going to have much more than your charisma modifier and plus numbers. If you've got and charisma's important, that's your spellcasting modifier anyway for Pallies. So you're going to have, at level 3, you're probably going to have a +3, probably. Yeah. So a +3 AC onto your AC is probably fine. Like, that's pretty good. You probably just push a lot in dexterity, as everyone does because of this. And then you're going to be, you might have a 15 AC, maybe a 16, and you're not going to get much more out of a heavy armor anyway. So, I think totally.
I think it'd be interesting to have a party that has like monk, that's the way of the 4 elements, and then a paladin of the Noble Genie, to see how they interact, because both of them are using the elements and stuff, and both of them will have this unarmored defense as a result as well. At different levels, obviously, but it'd be an interesting way to flavor it, so to speak. Level 7, we've got Aura of Elemental Shielding. So you choose one of the following damage types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. You and your allies have resistance to that damage whilst in your Aura of Protection. Gotta love a great Aura of Protection. And here's the thing: at the start of each of your turns, you can change the damage type affected by this feature to one of the other listed options. No action required. So you imagine you're like, okay, we're going to go in, it's going to be a black dragon. All right, we've got the acid. And then it turns out it's a blue dragon. You're like, oh, fuck, lightning. No action. I press the button on my shield and it changes. I like that a lot. So that regardless of what happens, you're always prepared for it, and it's not a negative to you. You're like, oh shit, I would have done it like this. I just think that's great. I think that's just, and like auras are so important again for that pally. Like, come on, everyone, and everyone behind me. So I really love that sort of aura protection and getting that sort of like resistance up for everyone in the party.
Pallies are the ultimate tank, but like the ultimate like buffing tank, if you know what I mean, like sort of a support tank is probably the best way to put it. And I think I like playing them. I think they're really fun to play. There's actually you've got a few things you've got to do. There's actually quite manageable number of things to do, but you still get a lot to do. It's not like a lot of other classes where you've got if you've got a lot to do, it's a lot to think about. This is actually like, I've got this, I've got aura protection, I've got my channel divinity, I've got my smite, and then I've got a few spells that I just got to remember, and that's pretty much it. Good. So it's pretty good, and I like that. I think it's a really easy thing to add for them, and I think the changing each turn, I can't imagine actually how often you're going to do that. I can't really think of. Like, I was trying to think when I was reading this. Like, when am I going to do that? Like, am I going to be fighting a blue dragon, then a red dragon's going to turn up? Then maybe, but you don't know what someone's going to use a spell. You don't know if they're going to acid splash you and then
that's a good point.
Chill touch. Like, it's hard to guess that in advance. So I think you would probably just stick with fire, unless there's a particular reason that that you're fighting something that deals one particular type of damage. For then it to then change mid combat seems a bit weird. Unless you're fighting an ice dragon in a volcano. Like that's all
Yeah,
I
I
can
was gonna
think.
say it has to be something that's like it takes on a different form. Chromatic orb is being thrown left, right, and center at you, or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, I think
exactly.
so. Yeah, maybe it's like different mages that you come across that they're all fighting. Yeah, so I think it, or maybe it's like you've got someone that's who is about to throw a fireball, and you're all in the area of effect. You're like, all right, beep, everyone's got resistance to fire, so when it eventually happens, we'll be okay. So maybe that's what it is. Perhaps maybe your own spell.
I would personally just go, you can have resistance to all of those elemental damage types because I doubt that you're going to find that it overlaps that much. And I think it's a gamification of like, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a gamification, unless you sort of go, or the other suggestion is you don't tell the GM, you write it down on a piece of paper.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the GM doesn't know, because then it's about the GM trying to figure out what element you're using. So they see that you have resistance to fire. Then they go, oh, well, then you change it to cold. Don't tell the DM. The DM goes chill touch or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Ice shard or I can't remember. Or
Ice
acid
knife,
splash
yeah.
or something like that.
Acid
Or ice
splash,
knife, that's it. And then it's a game of chance, I guess. Then,
yeah.
but,
No, I mean, I'm all for like trying that elemental like switcheroo and find out. But yeah, it's unless you're going through some sort of like time travel thing where it's like every layer actually goes, oh, and now we're in lava, now we're under the water. Yeah, I can imagine like. Yeah, it'd be. I see it as a battle royale type thing. That's what I see it as.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about like quickly elemental rebuke, which I think is great. Level 15. When you're hit by an attack roll, you can take a reaction to halve that damage against yourself, rounding down, and then force the attacker to make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC. On a spell save, the attacker takes damage equal to 4d10 plus your charisma modifier. You choose what type of damage it is. So if someone goes, okay, fireball or whatever, and you go, oh, nice, ice ball. Like you throw it back at them, it's like catch. And you can use this a number of times equal to your charisma modifier until you regain them all on a finish long rest. Again, they've gone into that sort of thing before. I think this is great. I love this idea that you're just throwing things back and forth, and it's always 4d10. I maybe would put it a bit earlier, but I know, again, they do get a lot of stuff, fighters, and you get extra attacks and all that sort of thing. But I just like, love this idea of the elemental rebuke.
No, I think it's great. And again, another reaction, always love them. And yeah, it's super powerful. And they're so thematic reactions because it is just like, no, as you just said. Back to you. And
no, you. Yes, very much the Uno Reverso card. Yeah.
I'm rubber, you're glue.
Finally, level 20, Noble Scion. So as a bonus action, you gain the benefits that are listed below for 10 minutes or until you end them. No action required. Once you use it, you can't use it again to a long rest. You can also restore use of it by expending a level 5 spell slot. So they're getting into this idea of like, if you've got a level 5 level spot, you can do that to get a use back of this. So firstly, you can now fly. You have a flight speed of 60 feet and can hover. Or, this is the key thing, I think, minor wish. When you or an ally are in your aura of protection, fail a d20 test. So if it's an attack roll, saving throw, check, whatever, you can take a reaction to make that test succeed instead.
Boom.
Holy shit.
Boom.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a proper level 20. That's a proper level 20.
None of this hour bullshit.
No, this is just like, you're in my aura of protection.
You succeed, my friend.
You succeed at everything.
My friend. Yeah.
You succeed, my friend. Yeah. Make that roll. Let's just make the roll for fun. Just for fun. Don't worry about it. Just do it. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. You made it.
But I do like the idea. It's very much like the Chad version of a Paladin goes, hey, you got this, man. Good luck. And you're like, amazing.
Yeah. Like death saving throws, though. Like you move them into your aura protection for 10 minutes, which you're never going to have a combat that lasts 100 60 rounds. But if you do, you're going to walk around and you'll be like, whoa, 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 whoa. You are saved. I am the Phoenix down of all things. Like, this is great. You're just going to walk around, just aura protection. You're all fine. Don't worry about it. I got this.
You got it, man.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
It. Yeah. Let's go, bro. That's all I can imagine it saying.
Bro, Paladin. I mean, Paladins are the most bro of all things.
They are so bro. Again, and to saying it non-ironically, go, I got you, bro. You're amazing, and I love you. And you're like, what the fuck is going on, bro? let's talk about the Winter Walker, the subclass for the Ranger. This one is associated with Icewind Dale, which we've looked at previously with the 10 Towns and obviously the Legend of Drizzt novels. And this idea that rhymed with ice, these ruthless rangers hunt the monsters that haunt Arctic wastelands, eventually becoming frigid terrors themselves. They sound badass. They do sound badass. I will give them that.
Yeah, they do. And I thought a nice little use of the word rhymed in there, just because of the rhyme of the Frost Maiden. But I was like, I don't even know what rhyme means in that thing, and it actually means to cover something or coat it in something.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, it's like got the same root as rind, I think. I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it's very one note. It's like you were saying with the moon ones. It's like there's a lot of ice here, and there are some really cool things hidden away within it. So it starts off with Frigid Explorer.
Would not call it that. I'll be honest.
Would not have called it that. I don't know if that word is Americanized or it's just a UK thing.
I don't know. It feels it's like that time in a playtest I did recently, and I meant to be talking about erasers, but I said the word rubber instead.
Yeah,
we had to stop the session briefly because people were laughing too hard.
Yeah, because that's obviously an English expression, like a rubber, and then in America it means something different. And Frigid Explorer is an interesting terminology. So anyway, but anyway, you gain the following benefits: frost resistance, you have resistance to cold damage.
Nice.
Great.
At level 3, yep.
Yeah, that's pretty good at level 3, exactly. And then Polar Strikes. When you hit a creature with a weapon, you can deal an extra 1d4 cold damage to the target, which can take this extra damage only once per turn. This extra damage ignores resistance to cold damage. When you reach level 11, this increases to 1d6. I think that's pretty cool. It means that you've also at level 3 got magical attack damage early on. It's always useful. So you're always going to do some damage to end, no matter if they've got like a resistance to non-magical attacks or whatever.
The important line here is that it ignores resistance to cold damage, because we both talked about it off recording. It's like, okay, you're in Icewind Dale, you're this Winter Walker. Same thing that we had with our travel book club. So, okay, we're going to have like all these creatures here will have heat resistance, but they also do fire-related things, and it just feels a bit like a weird paradox where you don't damage them as much because they've got resistance. So a lot of creatures, I'd assume, in Icewind Dale have cold resistance, or at least the monsters do.
Yeah.
But I like how it says, like, this damage ignores the resistance. Like, oh, this makes more sense. Because otherwise, it feels like, what a waste of a class to be, like, out in the snow going, like, well, I don't get hit too hard, but I don't hit creatures too hard,
And that's the thing that kind of like ruins the sort of mechanics sort of fall down, is that you want to make these thematic things which are very like focused, like I want to make an ice thing, I want to make a fire thing, I want to make an elemental thing. But then it comes with all these baggage of like, well, I have everything, 1 in 6 things are going to have resistance to this thing, or like this is going to be something that's only going to work so well on certain things. And which just kind of makes sense. It just is a little bit like, it kind of, that's where the sort of thing breaks down, and that's the way they sort of undone it, by being like, well, this ignores that.
I wonder, because I get the sense from this particular, like the Winter Walker like class, if it's something to do a little bit like with like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones. I wonder if maybe you have this. Well, no, but like I'm thinking like, because they are undead creatures full of ice.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if you pair it with another element, so it is like ice cold, but also undead necromantic. I wonder if that would be more interesting and a little bit you could play with more, rather than it being it's bloody cold. It's like it's bloody cold and they're dead, or they are raising undead creatures that can do. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Just change it all for necrotic damage. I'm there.
Because I'm thinking like I'm thinking like Coriolis, the sort of the Lost Expedition, all that sort of thing. That's all to do with like Arctic voyages, and how you see all these old logbooks of like these ancient ships in the Arctic, and they're frozen solid, and it looks scary, and the dead people are frozen in the ice. Why wouldn't you bring them back to life? And it's just horrific zombies covered in ice. Yeah, I don't know.
Wraith walkers.
Wraith walkers. There you go. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm just there going like, no, it's a bit chilly, isn't it? And I go, oh, don't start Gareth off.
Because it preserves the bodies, so the zombies are like more powerful because they're just
they've got armor on it. Yeah.
Well, no, because they're perfectly preserved, so they're actually like they haven't like had any necrosis. They've just like they're frozen like Iceland. So you've got like the chickens come back to life straight out of the packet. It's kind of great. So that's what you should do. And
Absolutely. I mean, like all the spells, like you said, mentioned, like
Yeah.
Ice Knife, Pass Without a Trace, Remove
Mm.
Curse, Ice Storm, Cone of Cold. I'm like, yeah, I would like a Raise Dead in there, perhaps. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I'd think of.
Oh, Fiona wants Raised Dead. Classic.
Guys, I'll bring that back into the survey.
Some creepiness, please. Hunter's Rhyme, I just want to say one thing.
Go for it.
You get Hunter's Might. When you cast Hunter's Might, you get 1d10 plus your ranger's level of hit points, temporary hit points, but also like they can't take the disengage action, which I think should be baseline. I think that should be baseline.
I love this
and
idea.
And they can't evade. I think you should like, or disadvantage on evasion or something like that.
Again, maybe because you've been hit by this cold force and you just sort of freeze up and you slow your reaction for that turn. Yeah, I agree that disengage action, removing it. What a cool thing to do.
It should just be there for all Hunter's Mark. I think that's a really good way to make Rangers better, would be like they can't take cunning actions or something like that. You know, any of the cunning actions like disengage, hide. They can't hide, they can't disengage, and they can't what's the other one?
Dash is the other
dash.
one.
I'd say that you can't do that if you're Hunter's Marked. I think would be a perfect addition to
you lose something. Yeah, I agree.
Make them rogue killers, if you know what I mean.
And getting that temporary hit points as well. I can again just you're just focused on, and you just get that more resolve to going after this person who then can't escape because you're just like zoned in on them because of the Hunter's Mark. Yeah, really cool. Really like that. Fortifying Soul. So it's like your experience surviving harrowing environments allows you to bolster your allies in addition to yourself. So you're like, I can just imagine going, I was once dead, and everyone's like, oh, fucking hell. All right. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I once traveled to the top of a mountain with one leg frostbitten, two fingers broken off, carrying a dead dragon. You can deal with this, boys.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, fine, okay, all right, we can rally.
Yeah, it is very much the rallying. So yeah, it's very much that bardic's like Song of Rest type thing. So when you finish a short rest, you choose a number of creatures you can see equal to your Wisdom modifier, and the chosen creature regains hit points equal to 1d10 plus your Ranger level, and has advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition for up to an hour. That makes sense if you're in like the 10 towns, Icewind Dale, because there's a lot of horrible things with frightening conditions. So I think that is pretty cool. And again, it makes me think like, oh well, that bard, it'd be cool to have like you have advantage on charisma checks or like persuasion checks or something like that. Because again,
checks.
Everyone, I can imagine again. I know this is the Ranger, but like talking to the bard doing a Song of Rest, going like, just go up to the person you like and just say hello and invite them out on a date. You've got this, and like that's a bit of advice. And then they go, I could do that. And then you just get that little boost of confidence. So you get an advantage on.
They just have to make the Ranger a bit shit. So they couldn't make it advantage on Wisdom saving throws. They had to make it just for avoiding the frightened condition.
Agreed.
They just can't do it. They do it just to bait me, I think. Personally to bait me. Chilling Retribution. When a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to force the creature to make a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save. And a fail save, the target has the frightened condition to the end of your next turn. While frightened, the speed is 0. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to Wisdom modifier. Now, again, it's just a little bit shit. It's just a little bit shit. Why are they not petrified? Why are they like at level 11? They get a bit frightened from you and can't move is not good enough. They should be. You got grappled, right? This is the point that they are taking the piss. Elemental Strike level 3. When you cast your divine, when you do a Divine Smite, your target is grappled and has the restrained condition for a turn. You're a Ranger at level 11. When you hit you, when you're hit with an attack roll, all you can give them as a reaction is that they are frightened of you. So you just go, meh, or you take the hit and just like do the whole like, when you punch someone and they don't move, exactly. Is not good enough. I'm sorry.
I feel
Wizards,
like
what are you doing?
They should take some sort of psychic damage for like, oh god, they didn't fall down or something like, or you get like a sentinel sort of like someone punches you punch them back.
Disadvantage on their next attack, and you gain advantage for the next attack is at least something. Just you gain advantage on the next attack and they're frightened would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, considering that like level 15 is Frozen Haunt, so when you cast that Hunter's Mark all the way back, because you have it as part of the base class now, you adopt a ghostly, snowy form. It lasts till the spell's end, and whilst you're in this form, you gain the following benefits. You get Frozen Soul, so you have immunity to cold damage now. When you adopt this form, and at the start of each of your subsequent quests, each creature of your choice within a 15-foot emanation. What is that? Is that
emanation?
What
Emanating.
Oh, it's just from you. Oh, I see.
It emanates from your origin. Emanation originate. I think that is a weird terminology. It just means a 15 foot sphere
around you,
emanating from you.
How weird. Yeah. Why does it not say sphere?
I don't know, but it's with a capital letter, so I'm assuming it's a terminology.
I assume it is. Yeah, that's why I just thought it was a mistake or something like that. Anyway, from a 15-foot sphere, because that's how I know it as, you take 2d4 cold damage. So again, I like that idea. Like you're just your presence, like, oh, something's a bit, oh fuck, Stephen again. It's just like frozen soul. And then partially incorporeal, you have immunity to grapple, prone, and restrain conditions. You can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take 1d10 force damage if you end your turn inside the object. It ends if you're inside the creature, you get shunted out. I think this is my thing, and I think I see a lot of comments about this as well. I think at certain points, because obviously if you lose Hunter's Mark, that's gone. I think we need to get rid of Hunter's Mark as concentration for this particular class early on.
Didn't they get rid of it as concentration full stop? It's just stupid. It shouldn't be a concentration thing. It shouldn't be a spell, and I think that's what really annoys me about it, because I forget it is a spell, because I think it's a class ability.
Yeah.
And that's when I was confused, because I had to remind myself, so it says the form lasts till spell ends. I was like, what spell? And I was like, what spell? Because there's no spell. You're not said a spell here. But then I realized Hunter's Mark is a spell. Yeah. And that is fucking wild. And it's fucking typical of Ranger shit. It's like, it should be a freaking... there should be no duration to it. It should be, you have Hunter's Mark until you take a long rest. And when you sleep, you lose concentration on it, right? Of course,
because you're not awake. You're not thinking about this creature day and night.
Yes. Yeah. But until that creature dies, or until you go to sleep, that fucking creature, or if it's outside of 1 mile of you, that's when it ends, right? Yeah. Shouldn't be a spell.
It should be like you can use it up to however many uses of your... Is it intelligence modifier, whatever it is? I think that's what it should be, right?
Or you should have a Hunter's Mark number, like Channel Divinity. You have a Hunter's Mark
number, like Barbarian Rages. Yeah,
exactly.
It's such a cool benefit.
It's all part of the Ranger bullshit. It's all part of the Ranger bullshit. They could be so much better. Anyway, I'm not good.
It's fine.
See old episode for Hamilton's 2 hours.
Hamilton's rant on Rangers.
It's a 2-part rant.
I was going to say, let's switch it round from the sort of boo Ranger to the Rogue.
Is this not the best one in the whole thing?
I read it and I thought to myself, damn it, it's really good.
It's so good, right? It's like the best. It's like, rogues are so good. Yeah. And now we're just like, we're going to make them fucking cool.
Let's make them cool, but also it's so evil. How on earth are you going to play a good or a neutral line? No, you're not. This is the evilest of evil rogues. And you know what? I'm here for it. I think it's great.
Oh, definitely. This is just like pure, like, rogues are always like touting the grey line of like, what is right and wrong, constantly every roguish player is constantly stealing from their party. It's like, it's a joke, right? It's the inside joke of like the rogue. Like the bard is always sort of like getting them into trouble by doing things. The rogue's always getting them into jail sort of thing. But the Scion 3, I don't know, you go for it.
I will. All right. So the Scion 3...
The Queen of Horror themselves should
hello, yes. So this is like... and each of these subclasses, I know we've not really talked about it, they have like a little byline that's like, oh, what kind of this is? It says, come, a gruesome agent of malice. I'm like, okay. A Scion of 3 draws power from a group of malevolent gods known as the Dead 3. We have Bane, the deity of tyranny, Baal, the deity of violence and murder, and Merkel, the deity of death. 3 happy chappies that you'd meet in a bar any night. While some rogues of this subclass would pledge themselves ardently to those 3 macabre gods, others find themselves thrust onto this path by a curse. I love that idea. I love that idea that that you've been chosen in some way. It's against your will. Again, your mileage may vary. Either way, the power manifests as various occult gifts, as well as an uncanny talent for striking and terrifying foes. You love killing things. You are giving that damage, and the more damage you do, the better you get at it. It's very cool. So again, this is associated with Baldur's Gate, because that's where the sort of the Dead 3 sort of like those cults are. But equally, you could be anywhere in the Forgotten Realms. But hey, if you played Baldur's Gate 3 and you've got that storyline, easily you can sort of pick up themes of that here.
100%.
Yeah, really cool.
Well, I mentioned it a number of times, my evil neutral campaign that I played in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, I had a Cleric of Baal.
Whoa.
who became a Asmodean warlock as well. And when they died, I rose them as a demon. So it was fun. Had lots of fun with that. So I had to read a lot about these three. And Baal's an interesting character because actually he's a human who overtook the original deity.
It's
of
wild, the lore
death
about
and
that.
violence,
Yeah.
violence, but really like interesting lore. I recommend, like, we should do a whole piece actually. Maybe we should do something on the Dead 3. I think
I would
that
love
could be
that,
really
actually.
interesting.
I think that would be really interesting. Yeah.
We
100%.
could do the DM's religious book club.
The Bible study club. Yeah. I don't know how well that will go down. Satanic panic might be knocking on my door. Yeah.
But we could do like a pantheon, like pantheon book club or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be
Like
cool.
because there's really interesting pantheon. Maybe it could be part of like something. But looking at the Dead Three themselves is a really interesting. There's lots of interesting things, and the interrelationship between the three of them. They all are fighting one another. And Baal spawn is a massive thing in Baldur's Gate. It's in Baldur's Gate Descent into Furnace. It comes up in the old Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 games. That's the whole thing about Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and even 2.5 as it's called, which is like the whole storyline is all about Baal spawn and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really interesting. But yeah, level 3, Bloodthirst. If your sneak attack hits a bloodied creature, which means it's under 50% hit points, the target takes an extra damage of the weapon's type equal to half your rogue level, which is quite cool. Round it up. In addition, when an enemy you can see is reduced to 0 hit points, you can take a reaction and teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 30 feet of yourself. You can then make one melee attack. You can reach... So this is my ultimate goal, right, of being a rogue, because I want to be the blade dancer from Destiny, which is you just zoom. You're in, you stab, dead, zoom off to the next one, stab, dead, zoom off, stab, dead, zoom off. Like that's what you should be. You should be literally this constant. And this is why I can't believe they haven't even thought of this before. Why have they not done like the most villainous, like malevolent rogue there is? Because rogues are the killing machines of D&D. They are the ultimate. They are assassins. They are thieves. Those are the baseline ones. It seems they are an arcane trickster. They are. So it seems quite weird that they haven't gone down this route before. I know it's really dark, and again, my list may vary as ever, but I think it really works with this.
Is how I imagine it. I know we've mentioned this cultural reference before, but I think it's in one of the Mission Impossible films where Henry Cavill comes down and just unloads his arms. That's how I feel like it, because you are just like, the more you do, you're in the middle of the fight and you're like, I'm loving this. I want more of it. Yeah. It's very much the opposite of like, is it the assassinate or the assassin one? That's the same where you have advantage on that first attack. This one is like you're warming up and you're like, oh, this is great, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Very cool. I love it.
I mean, we should give rogues rage abilities. Let's do that in another. Like, someone should make that class. But this is the closest you're going to get, and I think it's very cool. Yeah.
Dreaded Allegiance. So again, if you're taking that, if you maybe read a bit more, maybe in that Forgotten Realms primer, there's going to be a bit more about Bane, Baal, and Merkel. So here you could choose one of them, and then you gain resistance to a type of damage and an ability to cast a cantrip depending on which one you've chosen, and then you can change your choice every long rest. I think that's great. Level 3 thing, you get extra things. So like Bane is psychic resistance to psychic damage and minor illusion. Baal is poison and blade ward, and Merkel is necrotic and chill touch. I think again thematic works. I guess minor illusion is fine, I guess, but like maybe I don't know if there's a low version of like mind spike or something. I don't know, but I think all of them I think are really cool and flavoursome.
Blade Ward's really good though, because not only it's a cantrip, and you also on top of that gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage.
That's true. They're cantrips, aren't they? Yeah.
Having resistance to poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. That's pretty
good.
Yeah, it's pretty good at sometimes. And that lasts for, Blade Ward lasts for, how long does that last for? One action for one round. Hey. So it's still pretty good. I think that's pretty cool.
I mean, if you have that up and you're doing your blood first, like jumping, if someone's trying to get you in the between, you're like, no, you can't.
You're
Sorry.
disengaging all the time. You're a rogue. Don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. It's just disengaging at all points. It's too much fun. This is why I was getting confused with the selection, because this is the one where you actually have to choose that, and not unlike the elemental one with the genies. I thought you had to choose this one.
No, it's true, because a lot of it has been streamlined to be like, you can choose whatever between on the action or when you do the long rest, etc. So yeah, lots of stuff to sort of now re-remember, re-familiarize ourselves with. So here's something that I found interesting. So level 9 strike fear. So you gain, this is what I was talking about. You gain the following cunning strike options. So you have in the rogue class, you have some cunning strike options. And here's something I didn't realize. So I'm going to read out the cunning strike, the ability which you get at level 5, because I didn't know this existed. Because again, it's been a little while since I looked at rogues. But you developed cunning ways to use your sneak attack. When you deal sneak attack damage, you can add one of the following effects. Each effect has a die cost, which is the number of sneak attack damage die you must forgo to add the effect. You remove the die before rolling, and it occurs immediately after the damage itself. So you've already hit, great. Say you got 3d6 and you wanted to do, say for example, the poisoned effect that's in the main base class. You take a d6 away from that damage, but you automatically get this. I really like that. I didn't realize that was a thing, that you could have these different effects. And similarly, the strike fear is terrify, which is like, again, minus 1d6 from your pool of d6s. It must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, or it has the frightened condition for 1 minute. So yeah, not only are you giving damage to this creature, unlike the previous ranger one, it is then frightened of you. You know what I mean? Like before, like it was attacking you and then it was frightened. Here, you've attacked it and now it's frightened.
Yeah, I forgot about that as well. We must have looked at it in the UA, and we've not actually gone back to the 2024 thing to have a look at it. It's really cool, actually, Cunning Strike. So what's the other ones? You get Poison, Trip, which means that they get prone. Instead, Withdraw, hit and run the Withdraw. It lets you move up to half speed without provoking an opportunity attacks after attacking. That's pretty cool. I mean, as someone who gets disengaged, that's kind of fine. But yeah, I didn't understand what that was. So the Terrify thing, I've never been that interested in the frightened condition. I guess it is kind of cool because it means that they won't attack you and they have to move away from you, and it can be kind of useful. But it's really good if you can get it to work on a high level target, but they've got to succeed on a saving throw to do that. So you've just got to be, it's kind of like it's a very like high to utilize that. I know it's not, you're losing 1d6, which isn't a lot of damage. It's kind of probably quite good.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of like a Monk's Stunning Strike, where they spend key points to be like, all right, now you need to do this, and then you're like, oh, I've succeeded, and you go, okay, I'm going to spend it again. Except this time you are spending the damage. You're reducing the damage to have that effect. I just think it's a different way of looking at it. I just thought that was just really interesting, because it's something, again, I hadn't considered about, like forgoing damage, but in order to have a debuff for then other people to attack.
Well, it works again later when it comes to Dread Incarnate, and that's where that's when it mixes together. But you've got the Aura of Malevolence when you radiate a malignant power associated with one of the Dead Three, which I think is so cool. Start of each of your turns. At each of your turns, each creature of your choice within 10 foot. This is every turn. Originally, takes damage equal to an intelligence modifier in the damage type as the same damage resistance granted to you. So you're just standing there as a rogue, being freaking cool as fuck anyway. Sorry, I'm swearing a lot. But you're being really cool the whole way through this, as you would be. And then you're just like emanating this necrotic energy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Merkel, like necrotic. Yeah, absolutely.
But I also like the idea that you could flavor yourself as a really grimy, poison pox-marked walker, right? That is just like oozing and just like vile and disgusting, that is just poisoning everyone. And like I would make it that you're just standing there just like bursting pustules at people. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
and just
absolutely.
like this, you got this kind of like fog around you. And the psychic one of just being like big brain. Do you know what I mean? Like ultimate big brain. And just turning up and just like, woo, and everyone around you just feels like gets headaches and feels uncomfortable. And like even and it says within your choice, but like I would just like the idea that if you're like in a party, that your party just constantly like gets like minor headaches all the time.
Looking at you, they go, no, I can't look at you right now.
Could you just stop with the bloody emanation? It's like, I am the ultimate brain. I can't help it.
Or just like you're just weird. So it freaks you out that you've just murdered several people in quick succession. You just turn around and go, I think we should have burritos for dinner.
I was gonna say like ice cream. Strawberry ice cream.
Yeah, we all scream for ice cream.
Exactly. It's just like, I mean,
great.
Perfect.
Yeah, Dread Incarnate, just to say as well, yeah, you gain the following benefits at level 17. You gain advantage on attack rolls against any creature with the frightened condition. So, yeah, building on that striking fear from previously.
Yeah.
And then Murderous Intent. When you roll for your sneak attack damage, you can treat a roll of a 2 or 1 or a 2 on the die as free.
You're just dangerous. You're just dangerous. Already so dangerous. And now you are just
really
super
cool.
dangerous. Because how many D6? I can't remember, but I remember you get seriously loads, don't you, of D6s in the
when
end.
you're at level 17 onwards. And imagine, like, it doesn't, then you'd be like, okay, I do the trip effect, and then it really hurts. I don't know. Like, yeah, really cool. Really like it. I wonder, can you stack effects? So, like, you say you're at level 20, you had 10 d6, you go, okay, but I want to spend one for the Terrify and one for Poison and all that sort of thing. Can you do that? Can you? I don't know if you can. It will probably say in the, hang on, let me look. I should add one of the following effects. Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's fine. Maybe I'd be like, fuck it. You can combo. Like you do
I think so.
less damage, but also they're poisoned and they're frightened and they've tripped over. Exactly. Fuck it, why not? I like
and
that
they've had to move back as well. I don't know why. The thing with the withdraw one, I think is a bit weird because it's kind of interesting that you move up half speed. You get that as a bonus action anyway. I don't quite get that one. Still find that a bit weird. Yeah, I guess if you want to just chain effects, it's cool. But yeah, it's a really cool, very thematic, very grimdark.
Yeah, love it.
And I think it's really fun.
Horrific.
Interested to read more about them when I'm now really interested with the Sword Coast Adventure, whatever it's going to be, Primer, the Forgotten Realms Primer.
All right, the penultimate one. We're getting there very slowly, but we'll get there. Yeah. The Spellfire Sorcery. So this is the Sorcerer's one. Radiate raw magic potential. This is interesting. Compared to like wild magic where you go, I'm just going to explode, don't want to know what it is. Here you're like, I know what it's going to be. It's happening in the next turn. I'm going to just direct it to here or here. Like you're a bit more controlled. You know it's about to happen. You can't stop it, but you know it's going to happen. That's how. Someone again in the video they described it as a magical fire hose, which I thought was quite fun. Your innate power stems from the source of magic itself, the weave. This connection manifests itself as a rare ability known as Spellfire, and you surge with radiant bursts of this raw magical energy. Your talent with Spellfire allows you to heal allies, sear enemies, and absorb powerful spells. What a badass sort of copy for that, huh?
It's really good, and it hits the mark with like what actually happens, and it sounds equally cool. I think the Spellfire burst is the first thing you get when you spend at least one sorcery point as part of the magic action or bonus action on your turn. So it's pretty cool. You can release one of the following magical effects of your choice. You can only do so once per turn. Bolstering Flames, which is you are one creature you can see within 30 feet gains temporary hit points equals a 1d4 plus charisma modifier, which could be quite high, which is it's just something nice.
Something, I like it. Yeah, every little helps.
Radiant Fire, one creature you can see within 30 feet yourself must do a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC or take 1d6 fire or radiant damage of your choice, which is quite great because radiant then allows you to just overcome that everyone has fire resistance kind of thing, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I just think that's quite great. Just as every time when you spend like a one source point. It's not like it's not you have to use one source point. It's just like an additional thing you're doing.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
as you're spending, as part of magic action, then you can unleash one of the following magic effects additional. So I think that's really cool.
An extra little bit, yeah,
something a little extra, which I think is fun. And the Spellfire spells are great. A little bit of Cure Wounds in there, which is quite nice. Less restoration, just a little bit of like that idea that you are radiant and you're tapping into the root essence of magic. Therefore, you gain a little bit of these more aura of vitality, greater restoration, being a little bit more like buffing for your, a bit more like support class stuff, and then getting Guiding Bolt, Scorching Ray, Wall of Fire, and Flame Strike being more like, well, it's the pure elemental fire of spells, and Dispel Magic being you understand the sort of magical weave, therefore you should be able to.
Yeah.
I feel like something else which then comes onto is you always have counter spells prepared.
This is so cool.
Yeah, and when you have a target fails saving throw against a counter spell, you regain 1d4 sorcery points. Just couldn't write it better.
You counter a spell, you go, oh, that magic's now going to see it. I'll just siphon that for me, and I will reabsorb it. I like that because you're so connected with the weave. It feels very thematic. If anything, like this whole sorcerer reminds me a little bit of, I think it's called The Way of the Sun Soul, which is another monk one. Again, it's that radiant damage where it's all about searing, sunburst, sun shield, etc. Except they've done it as a sorcery and reflavored it with the wild magic. So with the weave itself. So yeah, I would like it. And yeah, absorb spells, great. Like
So
just
good.
it's like, yeah, and again it goes back to the whole thing of like, oh, I've run out of my spell slots. Well, if I use this feature, I will get back, I can cast this spell, or I can get, I'm a big fan of these things where you don't have to have like magic items that you could like lose with. Like, it's something innate to your character class. Yeah, really like this, really
100%. No, I think it's really good, and it just feels so cool because it's like, not only have I undone your spell,
Yeah,
also give me the ability to do more magic.
I am now so much stronger than ever before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, cast spells on me. I'll take your magic. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, you're just catching things and putting it inside you. Yeah, absolutely.
Hone Spellfire Burst improves, which is one of the things we mentioned. This is the first thing from level 3. You add your sorcerer level to the temporary hit points gained from boss, and the 1d6 your radiant fire increases to 3d6. This is level 14, which I don't know if 3d6 and additional is amazing, or 1d6 of temporary hit points is that great at level 14. It feels
1d6 plus 14. Yeah, it's a bit. I'd double it up to like 2d6 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like, it could be, or like I don't know. Is sorcerers a 1d6? Is that their hit dice?
I assume so. I'll have a quick check.
I thought they were 1d8s, but maybe
it might be 1d8. Yeah, I'll double check quickly. Sorry, I didn't
definitely wizards are 1d6s. Sorcerers are d6. It says it on the d6.
Then yeah, okay. So yeah, I guess it's trying to be thematic. Like, you only need d6s, all that sort of thing.
Fine.
Yeah. Crown of Spellfire, a bonus action. You can gain the following benefits for up to a minute. Once you use this bonus action, you can't use it again until you have a long rest, or you spend 7 sorcery points. No action required to restore your use of it. So that's really, again, a really cool way of like, well, I've got all these, I'm counterspelling left, right, and center. I'm just taking all these things. I've got enough to do this Crown of Spellfire. So, firstly, you get Burning Life Force. So once per turn, when you are hit by an attack roll, you can expend a number of hit dice, so the d6s, up to a maximum of your Charisma modifier, minimum of 1, roll them, and reduce that amount of damage from that attack equal to the total rolled, plus your Sorcerer's level. So you just like stop. You do the Neo sort of like, the bullets are coming towards you, you just stop it, you absorb it, it's gone. You might not get any damage result. So cool. Love that.
Yeah.
You get flight as well. You suddenly be able to fly 60 feet and hover. And then finally, you get spell avoidance. So if you're subjected to a spell or a magical effect that makes you do a saving throw to only take half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed and only half damage if you fail. You're a fucking legendary monster at this point.
It's great. It's constant evasion, so good. Which means you're just a rogue. But anyway, I love how level 18 sorcerer just gives you rogue abilities. But it's fun, it's true.
But like, you reduce any damage, you fly, you succeed. Like, what a
the fact that you get all 3. It's not choose one.
No,
1
for a whole minute
you've got all of these things, and that is very cool.
No concentration, no nothing. It just happens.
You're flying, someone's shooting at you, just like, nah, I'm fine. And then they like try and shoot, and you go, I'm out of the way, and I'll just counterspell you to steal it. It's like, great.
That's nice. Counterspell points back to me. Amazing. And then I can do this again. I can do this all day. Oh.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, again, sorcerers were one of those people where I'm like, I'm not so sure about it myself because there is a lot to manage. This makes me excited to try something else like this, like, because then I'd be like, oh, well, I get more points back. I'm not trying to choose like, oh, I should do a careful spell or a subtle spell because I've got counterspell. I can just get those points back, and so I'm not being precious with my resources, or I don't have to be as precious with them.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool. To be honest, I think sorcerers are really cool as a general rule. I think they've got a lot going for them. I think they're like the easier person's version of like of a wizard, and I think in really good ways. And I think the fact that you get all the fun bits of like of the sort of spell management with the sorcery points is more interesting than the sort of wizard way where it's just very much more basic. So I'm kind of like, I'm kind of down for it, basically.
Well, speaking of wizards, we've come to the final
Yeah.
subclass, which is the Bladesinger, which people do seem to like this idea that you're a bit of a fighter along with your wizard spells, essentially. Bladesinging is sort of a tradition of wizardry that incorporates swordplay and dance. In combat, they use a series of intricate, elegant maneuvers that fend off harm and allow the Bladesinger to channel magic into devastating attacks and cunning defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've played with a Bladesinger. It seemed very interesting and cool. Just not particularly. I prefer. Again, maybe I'm boring. I'm like, let wizards be wizards. I just like compared to like that sorcerer, which is like I have all this innate magic. I don't need to study for it, whereas wizards have to study for it. I guess there's that sort of idea of like studying swordplay and coming like one with a sword and stuff. That's kind of interesting. But this particular class has not had a lot of updates to it, just a lot of big three ones essentially, which is fine. I don't really. Again, maybe it's a sad one to end on because I'm not as enthused compared to some of the other ones we've looked at. You know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was very short, and I sort of rushed through it, and there's not a lot there to be honest, because as you said, it's like you basically get the ability to have a little bit more fighterliness to you, if that's a word. You bonus to your AC. You get to attack with a weapon, you have proficiency, and you can use your intelligence modifier for the attack instead of having to use your strength or dex, which is kind of good, which is the only big like change they've made there.
Yeah.
And when you make a concentration throw to maintain concentration, you can add your intelligence modifier as a total.
I like that. Fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Proficiencies. You just basically gain proficiencies to things like two-handed or heavy property weapons and melee weapons, which is kind of like, and you can use them as your spell casting focus.
I guess the reason they want that is because they like, again in the video they said it wouldn't be cool if like you were Bladesinging but with like an axe or this, and I'm like yeah, but I don't care. Like I don't know. Again, I say this. I've not played with the new D&D rules yet. I've not played D&D for a while, so instantly I'm like, I don't know how much of a change these weapon mastery stuff has made to the combat and stuff. So maybe it makes it more sense. But in my head, if someone goes, well, I want to use like a pike, and I'm like, okay, absolutely, you can use a pike to Bladesing. I think the only thing I would be aware of is that everyone is now 10 feet away from you. That's it. You know, that's the only thing I'd say. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about it.
That's it, exactly. And it's like, and it feels a bit the same as it's like extra attack. We're just making you more fightery. Song of Defense, you take damage. While you're based on that, you can take a reaction to expend one spell slot and reduce the damage taken by amount equal to 5 times the spell slot's level, which I think is very cool.
Yeah,
it's like a nice like thematic. Like I'm going to use my magical energy just to kind of create an aura, like a protective aura, like a AC thing,
like a shield. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Song of Victory is like after you cast a spell that has a cast time of an action, you can make one attack with a weapon as bonus action. So again, it just gives you this. It's very cool. Level 14 till you get that feels a little bit high, but then I guess you've got the extra attack at 6, so you are already doing that, which means you can magic hit. But it feels like you should be able to do that really early because that's really all there is to it. At the end of the day, is like you're a wizard that can fight.
I'm surprised it's not more about the spell casting thing anyway, because obviously wizards I know they can have, maybe it's in the actual class itself. So I just feel like, wouldn't it be cool if like, Bladesingers have specific like swords, like spells that are like you gain this at level 3, which is like, Blade Ward or something like compared to some of the others. I was a bit like, but maybe that's just me not knowing the wizards too well, and they have it in the
subclasses are pretty basic. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They've only got the 3, 6, 10, 14 sort of spaces.
Yeah, 5.
Because a lot of them get much more. And also, like when you look at Abjurate, it's just literally like you've just got better at warding yourself and breaking spells and your resistance spells. Diviners, you've got divination benefits, portent, and better portent. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, and you can see the invisibility. Evokers get better at evoker evocation. You get better cantrips. You get better at spell effects, and you can overchannel, which I think is kind of like overclocking. And then illusionist is like you can do some illusion shit. It's not like it's really. I've never felt like wizard subclasses like have ever the base level been about changing the wizard that much, because really the wizard is like freaking a god at level 20 and you just build your wizard based on what every spell that there is available in the book, basically, apart from hidden away by warlocks and clerics, like deity based ones. you pretty much got access to all spells, and that's how you build a class, not the subclass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which is kind of fine. I think it's a shame because actually, the Blade Song is the only one that does the thing I was saying before, which is like, we're gonna change it up by giving you these 4 things that make you also good at fighting.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if there was one like, we also make you a freaking barbarian. Imagine that. Like, that would be crazy, but it would be fun. We're gonna give you all the rage features as your, like in your 3, 6, 10, 14. Like, why not? Like, I don't know. It would be giving them resistance to damage when they're like sort of like spell rage.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know.
Wild. Yeah. Well, there you go. That is all 8 of those subclasses. We made it. Whoa. I think it's interesting. I think from when we talked about it, the 2025 sort of like looking ahead, we weren't necessarily that excited about the Forgotten Realms primer. Again, neither of us know anything about it. But I was like, we want some new stuff. Here is the new stuff. Here is the stuff. And I think so on the whole, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And because it's taken out of context a little bit, I am keen to be like, okay, let's find out a bit more of these places. Like, what are they, how are they changing the lore? If the Purple Dragonite has caused such a, minor storm in a teacup sort of debate. So I'm curious. And I'm, as I said before, when the Artificer UA came out, I'm kind of glad that they are still doing this sort of like UA still. And it's not just like they've always done UA. I know that. But it's just like, it's nice that even going forward, like, okay, we've finished D&D for the foreseeable future. They're still like going, hey, you want to check these things out? So it keeps us interested. So I'm keen to see what's in this primer now.
No, I agree. This is totally on the same page as you. I was reading through this and I went, they've actually made me interested in the thing I really wasn't interested in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I was, and it wasn't just the rogues. It was a lot of them. A lot of them were all very interesting. And I'm what also was kind of excited by it was that they'd done things even like, the whole going down the sort of looking at elemental things. They've looked at things to do with the pantheons. They've gone and looked at things to do with Planescape. They've looked at things to do with like lots of different, like, we're going to get you a dragon companion. It's kind of very ranging in the sense that we're going to look at the weave. We're going to go into the fundamentals. So what I mean by that is like, I'm expecting this to be a Forgotten Realms primer because the character subclasses are focusing on like the fundamental parts of what you want from it, like pantheons, how magic works, how the spell magic works,
how spell work,
genies, it's gone into like the elemental planes, it's gone into dragons and the moon and sort of like fundamental background stuff, which I think seems appropriate for a primer, if you know what I mean, for like how you build subclasses off the back of it. So that was all I kind of liked about that, really. So no, I
agree. I think what I'll be interesting to do, because we know it's like in 2 parts, this particular primer, you've got like the player's guide and then the campaign setting for GMs. I wonder, like, where will these go? Will they be split up, perhaps? Like some in the player's guide and some, who knows? But yeah, I'll be curious to see if there's any more that come out. I think there's a lot. We've talked about 8. We talked for nearly a good over 2 hours about them as well. Yeah. I'd be surprised because obviously there's a couple of classes that are missing from it that don't have a subclass, but I'll be surprised if they add any more, because I don't know, there's a lot to it. And I know there's one of the questions about like adding subclasses was like, well, it'd be nice to have something for each class, but at the same time, we don't want to have an overabundance of like, say, 3 or 4 for the clerics, because then people might just always go to the clerics because there's more options, etc. So I'd be curious if they do like a barbarian, for example. There's no barbarian there, or a monk or a warlock, if anything adds onto that in the future. Yeah. But you know what? Like I said, it was a good read. I enjoyed it, and yeah, as you said, I'm now keen to see what's happening. I'm excited, and in a weird way, as ever, they draw us back in, Hamilton. God damn it!
I know and it's kind of like, I'm actually quite glad, because as you said, we've been a bit down on Wizards of the Coast as a general rule, and so to have something that's actually inspired me about D&D and the way they've written about it. And like, one of the things I forgot to mention, which I liked, and you mentioned in the other UA, is there was fluff. There was all the fluff for every single one. Had that bit of fluff at the beginning. When we were talking about the Artificer, there was hardly any fluff, and I thought it was quite good that they put that in there.
Agreed.
So yeah, it was it was an enjoyable experience. Well done, Wizards of the Coast. I
Wow,
can't
don't
believe
say
I'm
that.
saying. I haven't said that in a while.
Oh, quick,
I
we
haven't
have
said
to,
that
we have to end the episode ASAP, because otherwise they'll hear us. Hamilton, thank you so much for chatting to me today. Where can we find your work? What are you up to? Bearing in mind that your Kickstarter probably has finished.
There's late pledges. There'll be late pledges. So you go and find Wraithborn on Kickstarter. There are late pledges. It's not going to be delivered until the December times. So get in on those late pledges now. So I'd say get in before October, whenever you listen to this, October 2025, and then you probably will still be able to get a copy of it. There's some cool things that I've been talking with people, which maybe people probably know by now, that there's potentially wooden dice. There's potentially what else is there? A collector's edition in gold foil with embossing potentially on there. There is also a cloth sheet that you can get off your ritual magic table as well. So if you want to do your ritual magic and have like a weird, creepy ritual magic circle thing to work off to freak out your parents or family members or whoever you want to freak out that you've got into some occult business, then buy that as well from us. Yeah, that's a bit of the long and short of what I'm doing. I've started doing some live streaming. As I said, I'm calling it. I've said at the beginning of doing like looking at some more White Dwarfs. I'm also just then re-uploading those, and it's just good. I'm calling it nostalgia fuel because I'm fueled by chaos, and it's just looking at old stuff from Warhammer. So
Nice.
yeah, go have a look at that. Now we've been looking ahead.
Yes.
At travels that we may be taking across the Forgotten Realms. And if we're not careful, Fiona, if we're not careful to take heed of that book and that primer, to understand the environment, the locations, the maps, the layout, we may sit there and ask ourselves the simple, most base question of all about the place we're in, about this place, as in, where?
Little claps there. That was very good. A very Oscar-worthy monologue there. It's whatever the Broadway awards, like Tony Awards. You can get that.
Yeah,
Tony. Where? I'm so glad you asked. Where is What Am I Rolling, which is a twice-monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast where we talk about different RPG systems, and we do interviews with game designers as well. As I said, we've done some live streams. We've done some Too Long Didn't Reads TTRPGs where we go through an RPG that's interested us. One to note to date, we looked at something called The Mask of Masks, which is like a superhero, the sort of the violence in superhero genre, and very much like The Boys. If you enjoyed like the comic book The Boys, but need more emotion, go check that game out. That's by Hazel Amber Goswick, which we looked at. And yeah, we look at all different kinds of RPGs, so come check us out. I'll also say I'm 1/3 of the RP Geeks. I have to get their name right. I keep forgetting. I know.
I loved your little video where you were like getting it wrong. I know it was, I'm assuming that was scripted.
Not as much as you think. Yes, the RP Geeks or the Ripper Geeks. Yes, come check us out. We'll be doing lots
Ripper
of
Geeks.
Ripper Geeks, the role-playing geeks. Don't say role-playing geeks. Okay. Yes, come check us out. We're doing lots of different TTRPGs. Again, by the time this episode comes out, we'll have done Nibiru, which is like a memory loss sci-fi sort of setting. Really interesting, really cool. We'll have done a Valentine's paranoia game, which will have been...
That sounds so Valentine's.
Yeah, so Valentine's. A friend computer needs dating, apparently. We'll be doing some other one-shots, and of course, I'll be doing my Blades in the Dark campaign coming up as well. So yes, check that out. RP Geeks D&D on Twitch. But yeah, check on the Blue Sky RP Geeks D&D as well. And yeah, come follow us on there and come check out all the cool city things that we get up to.
It's amazing. I'm so excited because you've got RP Geeks are already really cool. And if you aren't watching all the stuff they're doing, they're probably, I'd say they're the topness of UK TTRPG content, I'd say. And now they've become the toppity topness because they've added Fiona, Queen of Horror.
Oh, yes. I'm like, hello. I just like turn up full goth. I am literally the Scion of 3 in the corner going like, good, assassinate, bloodthirsty birds.
It's true though, right? I mean, like you got to play to your strengths. No, but I think it's no, people should go check it out. Everything that you do anyway. But yeah, RP Geeks are really cool.
Yeah.
I've been on a couple of shows with all of them, and they're all the tip top, the topness. I don't know why I'm saying tip top a lot.
I love it. It's very British. I really love it. Bring it back.
I know it's off topic, but quickly, I've been watching this just come up on my feed or my Instagram of a guy. It's an American guy who's lived in London. It's like weird sayings that British people say, and it's so weird hearing someone else say them. He goes like, I hear these sayings, and he doesn't know what they are, but I'm guessing what they are. And he was like, budge up, and he's like, didn't know what, and I was like, I didn't know that was just a thing that we said, but it's so true. It's like, I was on the tube. It was on the subway, he goes. I was on the subway, and he's lived here for a few years. He goes like, oh, the tube, whatever. And he goes, someone said, oh, just budge up. And he goes, I thought you said like bus stop. And I was like, I'm not having a bus stop.
No,
it's like, no. Budge up. It's like actually, like move up, right? Okay.
How funny. Yeah, I hadn't considered that.
A numpty and stuff like that. Didn't know what that meant, and you're just like, that is the most British word
ever.
So
British. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I have to check that out for sure. I like that.
I'll send you
well, like I said, I've already told my story of the rubber eraser scandal that happened in the playtest, and I will never recover as a result of that. All these Americans like looking at me, and I'm like, no, I meant eraser. No.
I didn't mean what you think. I
see my reputation like burning into ashes in front of my eyes, and I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna be known as the lady who's like playing like a very nice, friendly, not like child, family friendly RPG, but definitely one where I've gone, well, I fucked this. Like I've made this. Now everyone's gonna think I'm being dirty, and all I was talking about was like giving people like erasers that had the name of the tavern on. That was it. But no, they were like,
I now know the context, and that's getting misinterpreted.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that because somebody else named the tavern, and it's called the Scabbard. So imagine if I go, so I just give out like a rubber that has the Scabbard's name on it, and it's like, a sheath for your weapon. And I was like, no, stop talking about it like that. Ugh. Anyway. With all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next time with another episode of the D&D Book Club. But until then, we'll see you
on the flip side.
Bye.